eclipse and see a selenelian?
Oh yeah, the Royal Society, that was a lot of people's hobby.
Hold on, Eden, hold on real quick. Before we move on from this, let me know when you figure out what a selenelian eclipse is, and then we can rethink your claim of it's as simple as the stuff is where it is, because that would debunk the globe model. Once you figure out what a selenelian is.
I already have known what a selenelian is.
So do you agree that it's geometrically impossible on the globe, but things are not where they actually are, therefore they're refracted, bent out of position, and that's what allows a selenelian to be possible on the globe model? Do you agree with that?
Well, I'm watching this video that is supposedly impossible on a globe. It's 4 minutes long.
Well, that's why even in the mainstream they call it the impossible eclipse. But when you look into it, then they're like, well, it's not actually impossible. You see refraction. No. That's what they say. That's what they claim.
Yeah, I mean, they don't claim it's physically impossible. They claim it's geometrically impossible, because it is. Physically, though, if you have light bending, you can make this happen. But geometrically speaking, like saying, oh, the things just are where we see them, that'd be geometry, and that's not the case even for the globe model. You'd have to come to once you figure out a selenelian is real, you're going to rethink your claim of, oh, the things just are where we see them.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I got a quick request.
I'm going to respond to that, dude.
All right, hold on. Well, do you want to respond first?
Respond
All right, okay, how about Jesse? And then I want to go because I want to get before, and then maybe Jesse again, and then Fundy, and then we'll go in Fundy if that works. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm watching this video, and I don't see the sun. I see the moon, but not the sun.
Well, selenelian is when the sun and the moon are both visible above the horizon while a total lunar eclipse is occurring. So it's right when the eclipse is happening. So basically, the sun and the moon are 180 degrees from each other. So any of the footage you look, you'll often see the people like panning back and forth. They'll like, here's the sun, there's the moon, there's the sun, there's the moon, and they want to be able to get footage where you can see them when they're both above the horizon at the same time. And so that's where the geometry doesn't work if you're on a sphere. Of course, if you're on a planar surface, it's not an issue. So you can just have two things that are.
Have you seen the video? Surface. There's no sun in the video.
I'm not watching the video, which I don't know which one you're referring to. There's a lot of them out there.
The claim is that the sun and the moon are both above the earth, and the shadows being casted onto the moon because of the earth. But I don't see the sun. So you don't have your sun and moon above the earth in this case.
I mean, there's less people. There's probably less people. The selenelian eclipse is probably the least contested. There's more people that don't think the 24-hour Antarctic sun is real than think selenelian is not real.
No, I didn't say it's not real. What is that?
Yeah, you're not seeing the sun and the moon. You're not seeing a selenelian if you don't see the sun and the moon. So just seeing the moon, you're not seeing a selenelian. It's that simple.
Yeah, he does show them both in that video. You see the footage of the moon. I think his sun footage in this particular one, like you see the moon well above the horizon, and then it would be better. I would agree with you if this is what you're pointing out. If he had better footage of it, but at like 3 minutes 25, you see the sun's rising, and then as it goes even a little bit, a couple seconds later here, looks like near the end you do see the sun, like the whole circle of the sun. It would be better to have more footage of it though, more dramatic footage. But yeah, it does show it. It's not the best ever, that one, but yeah, I just mentioned it because Clyde had just posted it. So I just said that's one where, and that guy has nothing to do with flat Earth or anything. He's just a dude who's just into it or wanted to see it.
Right on. I got a quick request I just want to put into everybody in the room. I was talking to Jesse earlier, and not that it's all for him or anything, but more so for myself. I wanted to bring up Truloon. If you guys remember him from like maybe 5 years ago or something, I was trying to find Truloon's presentation or any of his animations and simulations he did for the 3D models. And if there's anyone in the room who knows how to track that stuff down, I tried and failed. I couldn't find it, and apparently he died. Sorry for the bitter news. But if anyone can DM me those animations he made, I'd appreciate it. Or link me to the episode on FED that I know he was a special guest on, where he explained all of his stuff.
Fundy, how did he spell his name? Was it L-U-N?
It was Troolon.
Okay, thank you.
Troolon. Truolon.
Jesse, keep me posted when you figure that out, bud. Thanks.
I already figured it out, dude. In this observation, the video Quad posted, the sun looks like it's already intersected the horizon.
Okay, but this isn't even this is a claim within the globe model. Like if you believe in the globe model, this is their claim that there is a selenelian eclipse and it's geometrically impossible. So do you not believe the globe model, or do you believe the globe model? Because that's going to have to make you rethink your claim that the things just are where we see them.
You know, I'll grant you that things don't get refracted when they're near the horizon. Cool. Now you can go ahead and explain to me how celestial poles work, which I don't think was done right.
So you understand your claim of things are just where we see them. You understand that can't even be the case even on a globe, right?
When you're looking up at the sky, yeah, I think they are where they appear to be. When you get closer to the horizon, I'm going to interrupt you too. When you get closer to the horizon, now you have terrestrial refraction. It's going to cause some effects to the position.
Okay, so things aren't always where we see them then.
Typically they are, and it's not by much.
They're not always. But not always.
What difference does it make? Where are you going to put the south celestial pole?
I'm just saying. I just want to make it clear. Like even in your guys' model, that's a claim you can't stand by. That the things just are where we see them. Even if you have the sun at 45 degrees, the sun's not there. There's a little bit of refraction there, making the sun not appear there. Even if it's at 89 degrees, a little tiny bit of refraction, the sun's displaced.
Okay, it's not to the point where it's in the complete opposite direction. Like
not where you see it.
I don't know. You're like interrupting me right now. Do you want me to stop?
It's not where you see it. I'm just letting you know it's not where you see it, no matter what, unless you're right below it. That's the only time it is where you see it.
Pretty damn close to where it is.
Pretty close. We're not playing horseshoes and hand grenades.
You know, if you want to measure the refraction happening to a star, you can. You certainly can, and I'm sure you know that.
No, you can't. You absolutely cannot. You cannot make a star. What are you high or something?
I don't know. You sound high when you say things like this, though. Why not?
Yeah. How would you measure refraction of a star?
Closer it gets to the horizon, there might be apparent lift.
Yeah, but you have to know its actual position before you can know its refracted position. So how would you get its actual position?
You would assume it's 15 degrees per hour.
So we don't know where anything is. We don't know where we are. We don't know anything. All right, great.
I will take
You guys can
pretty
meet in the middle on this. Come on.
yeah,
I don't
I
think
would take pretty darn close then.
Literally on the opposite side of all known reality.
Well, I don't really think, to be fair, like it's not really an attack on you, Jeff. It's not really like a good faith approach because I don't think anyone said those things at the moment. We've been discussing about a lot of things, but you're kind of just throwing straw mans and trying to like, I don't know if you're trying just to throw bait out or something, because it's not really. I mean, is that really what you're at? Is there anyone you're asking that to? Because I don't think anyone said those things. So who are you like directing that to?
You know, people that come into this topic, it is the main concern of those that don't think the Earth is flat. Is positions of stars. 15 degrees per hour drift. There's a south celestial pole. You have 1 degree every 69 miles. There's yet to be a model of this above a flat Earth. That's a problem. And like, I don't like to act like that doesn't matter is crazy to me.
Well, I would say that there's been models of it since the dawn of time. And in terms of the sky, it has been modeled in infinite time, and the positions of stars. Because when you create a planetarium, you're basically creating a model, a small scale model of the sky, and you to where you can sit there and it can replicate. Like if you pull up the same sky from where you actually are, like where the actual planetarium is, you can walk outside, look at the sky, walk inside, look at the planetarium, walk back out, look at the sky, and it's going to look the same or quite close. I mean, obviously, yeah, the real sky is going to obviously spatially and stuff like that, but at the same time, like the kinematics and the actual positions of things. So I mean, planetariums have been modeling the sky in that hemispherical dome structure since the dawn of time. And that's what I was saying before. Like if you were to have, let's say you have many, many different planetariums just all around, and you have a slightly different sky on each one, you could have like a spherical graphical model, let's say, or just a celestial sphere. You could model it that way. You could put it into all these separate planetariums. Everybody could be looking at their portion of it. They're not really ever, it's not an actual sphere, it's a hemisphere, but they're seeing a portion of what could be referred to as the celestial sphere. And that's why before I was going to say, like, that's why the sky works pretty well overall with the globe model. Like, there's discrepancies about curvature and the ground and how it's actually all laid out. But that's the reason that they've been able to even do the globe model, is because they put the stars in a sphere that had to go out very far in their model to account for that geometry. But my point is that you could have many, many different planetariums in which you're seeing a portion of that, and it can function with those geometries the way that can. I mean, it is a hemisphere shape, a planetarium itself, dome shape as it were. And that not only replicates what the sky is, but also replicates the way that all of those separately can be put together in kind of like a theoretical sphere, as it were, or like a model of that. But individually, you're seeing all of those actual just unique positions of the sky.
Yeah, well said.
Even geometrically, though, the stars can't be a sphere, because I agree that a planetarium is accurate, but it's only from one geometric position on the Earth. So as Jesse said, I don't see how you could see specific stars the same cardinal direction from different, like facing opposite away, like facing different directions on the Earth. I don't see how that's possible. Now it doesn't conclude Earth shape, but it doesn't conclude Earth shape. But what I'm saying is, even a sphere of the stars wouldn't make sense. They'd have to be doing something else.
I'm just wondering if people really understand where someone like Jaren is coming from when he says that he flipped. Like, is it really like him just being dishonest and just kind of doing a big fuck you? Or do you understand why he did that? Because there's tons of people that are on his side that'll say the same thing as him.
Of course, we've thought about it. And it's only natural for some people to come to these conclusions. But depending on someone's foundation, for instance, okay, since you brought up Jaren, he's not a Christian, so he doesn't have the foundation that other Christians might have.
Oh God!
So he can easily turn on them and then make fun of them.
Why? Why does it always have to?
All right, well, hold on, dude. Well, hold on. You don't have to make fun of him for saying it. I mean, he can make that point. You shouldn't have to be mocked and ridiculed just for him making a point. We don't. I mean, we're not trying to go into a whole Bible discussion, but he wasn't doing that. He was just saying that one point, I think. So that's one perspective.
Because he's not Christian.
That's his view. I'm just saying that's his viewpoint. That's his viewpoint.
And I gave reason, his foundation, right? Because it's it is coincidentally outlined by the ancient Hebrews, right? But he doesn't hold Christianity in a good light, so it's easier for him to make the change. Whereas Whitsitt, he's searching out Christianity. So because his foundation is stronger, he has a, a greater foundation. He doesn't just flip flop.
I mean, I don't really see that. I hear you, and I guess like to attach it to that kind of roots of it, but I mean, Jesse, the thing is, which this will tag into what you were saying as well, but I mean, Jesse, like, just take people on here. Let's just say like 100 people, Jesse, that you personally have known over the years that are like that you would say are the most solid, like, if you want to say stationary, planar, flat Earth, whatever terminology you want to use, definitely not globe, but like not on the fence either. Like definitely like planar, stationary, etc. Like if you were to take like the 100, how many flipped or did what Jaren did? Like pretty much zero. So like Jaren going through whatever he's going through, he is a content creator. There could be a lot more money for him in going globe. I don't know though. I'm not trying to put that that accusation onto him that he's doing it for money, but that I know his views have probably gone up. I don't know if they'll stay up though. I know with Ranty, he got a little surge of views for a few months, but then it completely dwindled to nothing because what ends up happening with these situations is that the flat earthers won't listen to Jaren anymore because of obvious reasons, and then the globers will realize like, oh well, Jaren's not really like the same type of glober as like MC Toon or something, you know what I'm saying? So they'll just end up dropping him. Like after the kind of like some are getting kind of like a high off it, oh, he flipped and maybe others will flip too because they're going through their own like stuff or whatever, all of that. But like that wears off and they realize like, oh, well, they didn't really like Jaren's content before when he was quote unquote flat earth. Now these globe, like I think for very few that transition is ever going to be where like now all of a sudden he's like people's favorite globe earth content producer. Highly doubt it. So that's what happened to Ranty. I mean, everyone just dropped him. Just like a lead weight after he had a bunch of attention. It could happen with Jaren that way too, but I'm just saying, dude. My original point was if you take 100 people, or even just take others, it's like so Jaren going through it, him going through, it's kind of like a one-off thing. It's not like and we could go through why, but like his logic of why he's claiming he's doing it is obviously not very strong in terms of anyone else actually following that. I mean, there might be some, but I'm just saying.
All right, dude, but it's not zero, so that's weird for you to say that. I know people in this server that think that the 24-hour sun creates a big problem for flat Earth, and now they think it's a globe. And that's just reality, dude. Like think of it this way.
Yeah, well, it's like there's like one person, like what, Osco? Like maybe one person, I think he had said. He's the only one I think that has said that.
Also, there's somebody that goes by Good White Light.
Oh, he's flip-flopped like probably 30, 40 times over the years.
Yeah, I wonder why. Probably because flat Earth is super inconclusive. But either way, just let me say this. I think that most people, when they're presented with the idea that the Earth is flat, they run it through their mind. They don't dismiss it right away. And the first thing that creates a problem for all these globers is the stars and the sun. Like I think everybody is willing to
the water that creates the problem for the globe.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, there's many problems with the globe, Jesse.
You said water is a problem for the globe. I don't think so.
Jesse, I have a feeling you're loyal to truth, but just for everybody's sake, are you more loyal to the government that is that is above you, or to truth?
Hold on, did Kelly deliver his point?
What does that have to do with the shape of the Earth?
Just because some people are more loyal to the government.
Dude, I used to be a flat earther. I am super conspiratorial.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Jesse. Enough said, and I appreciate your answer.
Like I was saying, I think like I would even ask any glober in here right now, like when they first heard that Earth was flat, like they probably didn't try to dismiss it right away. They probably ran it through some little tests in their mind. And the stars, in my opinion, are the biggest issue. Two celestial poles, counter rotation, where you're seeing the stars depending on where you are on Earth. Like I said before, you can see the Southern Cross looking south from South America, Australia, South Africa. that throws A.E. Gleason's math in the garbage right away for a lot of people. Why do they all relate? Why do they all
Because they
consider the
don't look
same
at the
thing?
water. They look at the lights in the fucking sky.
Okay, I know for a fact that nobody has ever actually measured the Pacific Ocean to be a horizontal
Yeah, you
point.
don't use the ocean. That's stupid.
Well, this is what you're saying is flat.
That is not what I'm saying.
So are
I'm
there
saying the
okay.
water, but if you use the water in a certain way, like in a tool that's used to create a horizontal plane of reference, then the water is horizontal, not curved.
On a
You
small
think
scale,
in
on a
your
local
mind that
scale.
it's curved.
I don't know how you know that it's
The-
perfectly horizontal the entire span of
yeah, that the
20,000
water.
miles.
Yeah, the water level thing just doesn't work, man. It just doesn't mean anything.
Okay, one
Do
more
you have a
question for
water
Jesse.
level
Oh yeah, I do.
and you've used it and your shit was
Oh yeah,
level, right?
yeah. I've used it. I've
Right.
used it to build decks.
Thank
I've
you,
used
left
it to
leg.
set up trailers, but you can't find earth curve in the perimeter of a water level. It's just not enough there to
Yeah,
measure.
because there's no earth curve.
On a
No,
local
left leg. He's
scale,
not talking
no.
about the meniscus on the top of it. He's talking about a water level with tube over distance, and then there should be a drop if the water was curving around a sphere, and if it's not,
You can't
it's not
you can't
dropping on the
measure
sphere.
enough distance though. You can't get it's not enough distance.
Says
It's
you.
2007 inch on 100 feet of drop. That's you can't measure that.
Well, you got to if you want to say it's a globe.
Yeah,
Okay then.
show us that drop from horizontal and we'll go back to the globe.
I'm not saying you have to do anything. That wasn't a demand. I'm just jokingly more saying like if you wanted to measure curvature, that's what you'd have to measure. That's basically what I was trying to say.
Yo, the new
That's
argument is here. Let me ask Jesse if I drew a 10-foot line on the wall, could you measure if that line was level or not?
depends on how precise of a level line you want. I don't know if you're gonna have a perfectly horizontal line.
So you can't. No, a level line. I said level.
A level line and a horizontal line. What are you using to create your horizontal?
Dude, can you measure? Can you measure a 10-foot level line on a wall?
I've done it before.
So you're yes? Is that yes or no? I don't know. It's just yes or no, please.
I'm not gonna say it was perfectly horizontal, perfectly perpendicular, 90 degrees from a vertical. I would never say that because I
I'm
didn't
not
measure
asking
it.
you any of that, dude. Can you measure a 10-foot level line? Yes or no, please, for the love of God. You know what? Never mind. Just forget it. Just forget it. I don't want to play games anymore. I'm done with the game plan.
I'm not playing games.
Okay, Jesse, if just a quick question, you were a flat earther, so did you believe the moon landings happened? And if so, are you now believing they did occur if you didn't?
For a minute there, I kind of understood why people thought it was fake. And now I don't see why it would be impossible.
You went
If
back
Earth
on the
is,
moon landing too?
hey man, the moon looks like a rock. So if there's such thing as gravity and there's a big gravity rock up there, then maybe you can walk on it. What's
Wait,
in the way is the question.
did you once like strongly either assert or think that it was fake though or hoaxed, or did you ever come to that conclusion, or were you always like on the fence with it and then
Yeah, even when I was a super auto glober when I was younger, for a minute there, I might have thought the moon was fake here and there, but I never thought about it hard enough. It was mostly because of some footage that there was of I think it was like somebody jumping off a ladder, if I remember. That was something that
Dude,
circulated at one point.
I mean, for me, I don't have to go through my whole story, but just briefly, dude. Like I had heard that people had thought maybe the moon landings were fake, but I never really looked into it or thought much about it. But it was around like 2004. My brother, actually, my older brother, was like, "Hey, do you know people think that's fake?" And I was like, "Really?" And I hadn't really thought that much about it. So then I looked into it and I actually researched it. Dude, I spent like like 2 or 3 months, like just every day, like every time I had some extra time, like extra hours in the day. It was probably like 2 months. I remember actually closer to 2, maybe a little over 2. But it was like every day I just basically had a couple extra hours, and I was just looking at everything I could find. And back then the internet was way different, so trying to find stuff. But I was able to find like a lot of info though about why it was real, why it was not real. On both sides. And I looked at everything I could from both sides. Every website, every documentary showing how it's real, everyone's showing how it's fake. And at the beginning, I was actually on the fence, but I was even a little more biased that it was real because I generally accepted it. I wouldn't say I like strongly like believed in it or anything, but I mean, I did generally accept that the moon landing was real until I did this whole, undertaking. So if anything, I had a bias that it was real. And dude, I came out of that conclusively that is an absolute false event, that they were not on the actual moon, that was filmed, that is actors and studio setups. 100% is my conclusion at the end of looking at doing that. And then everything I've seen since then has only shown that to be more so. So it does blow my mind, anyone who buys it. Now I can understand if you haven't looked at everything I've seen, perhaps, and I don't know if everyone has, and I can't really, I'm not trying to judge someone for what they have or haven't looked into with it, because I did watch like a lot of stuff, like I mean everything I could pretty much.
Yeah. Hours upon hours, and well said.
So, okay, so let me tell you. I didn't say that I outright believe they went to the moon. All I said was, I don't see why it would be impossible if the moon is actually a physical rock.
Okay, 250,000 miles away. If space was what they say it is, then you're just saying it could be possible. That's your argument, or that's your statement?
Well, I asked, like, what's in the way? What's stopping us from going there?
Yeah, it's weird, right? Why aren't we already there with at least some buildings and some telescopes? And I'm not saying they would have Disneyland on there, but yeah, it's strange. It's just this glowing, untouched thing up there we see. Just this glowing orb.
Yeah, because they
Can't
can't go.
Buildings on it. Should have buildings and vehicles. And I mean, they drove a car up there. They drove 2 cars up there. They spent millions and millions of dollars on it. They drove them for a few hours and just left them there. And they're just collecting dust ever since 1972. That's ridiculous. The first time humans got to another, alleged claimed planetary body and drove a car around, and we just gave up on that.
No, we abandoned stuff in deserts all the time.
Smashed. The moon's been getting smashed by asteroids, meteors, and comets for like millions and millions of years now. And they're full of gold, nickel, silver, platinum, tons of precious metals. That is all turned into dust, which is the easiest way to actually mine the materials when it's in dust. Because when it's in rock, you got to crush rock up. If it's in dust, all you got to do is sift it out. And an asteroid could come kill us all right now. And whose fault is it we're not on Mars?
Yeah. It's painfully obvious why they don't have a Freemasonic lodge there.
If we all
if it was real, if they had actually
buildings in the North Pole either, can I? Like right on the poles, I can't go visit those buildings. All right,
your mic we can't really even hear you, bro. Your mic is super bad. You gotta fix your mic or something. I've said this before. If they actually went to the moon and did that, it would have been expected that in 1973, 74, 75, they would have been continuing to go back. They would have built better rockets, better machinery, better rovers, better everything. Now, I'm not saying civilians, they would have been taking like Disneyland people there like in 1975 or anything. But by the end of the 70s and certainly by the beginning of the 80s, there would be a pretty clear travel between them. You would at least be able to have some buildings set up, for testing, for telescopes, for all kinds of things to test, women reproducing on the moon and like a billion trillion things. And I'm not saying it would be like you could buy land and real estate or have some like golf courses and stuff like that. Although, I mean, it's possible, like, in theory, if it was real up there, you could build all that. But I'm just saying it would have been expected that there would have been a regular trajectory, a more normal trajectory in which there would have been at least constant travel there, and then at least making sure we can drive cars there, you can build a building, you could have a telescope, you can have a little testing, all that stuff. It's just like they do in Antarctica and other places like that. The fact that all of that is just white noise, blank, nothing for all these decades is a pretty big giveaway.
Yeah.
But could you explain why you think we should be there?
Yeah, there's no oxygen up there. It's a extremely hostile environment. And what would be the return on the investment?
We also don't have anything in Antarctica.
If we were on a globe surrounded by a massive, massive outer space galaxy of eons of everything, and the possibility that this globe could not sustain life, or there could be an asteroid or some kind of tragedy or low resources, whatever, it would be of top priority to, of course, get off the planet, get to the moon, which is the first body, intersecting you and the rest of the entire universe is this little moon guy. That's your last chance to get some more fuel or get some granola bars or whatever you got before you head out to space. That's your last pit stop. It would be the most important spot. It would be focused on profoundly. It would be the main spot to have as a pit stop. So anyone going to Mars later or anything like that, that would be. So there's every reason in the book to have that be a main, pit stop for the rest of the whole galaxy.
That's what they're doing now.
The funniest part about the whole thing is, for years, the Globers were going, why would we go back to the moon? There's no reason to go back. Where's NASA going next? They're going to when we go to the moon, Left Lane?
Yeah, we got a reason to. Just exactly what Gio just said. It's going to be a stop-off point and a launch pad possibly to go to Mars.
Dude, I swear to God, I'm not even joking. They got that idea from me. I'm not even joking, because I used to say this on the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord server years ago, and they didn't do this before. Like, they were just focusing on Mars. There was no moon stuff. I know it sounds funny, but like, I was saying that regularly, and like, if these guys are listening, it's like they literally changed their plan, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, the moon is a pit stop now, because they were just ignoring the moon. They were just headed for Mars. And anyways, I'm not really saying it was me saying that, but I have been saying that for years, that all of a sudden their agenda changed to do that. It's funny.
Can I just make a point, Gio, that the only argument for us not going to the reason we haven't gone to the moon is like a vague feeling that we should have done a whole heap of things, even though you are neither in charge of any of the organizations that would make the decisions of what we should or shouldn't do on the moon. You haven't done any of the financial views into it. It's just like a vibe that we should have gone back and done a whole heap of other stuff. But can you give us a credible reason, other than just this vibe, for why we should have gone back to the moon earlier? What would it have achieved, and who would have had the will to do so?
We could have furthered human space travel and secured our position in the universe by making sure that we didn't get wiped out like the dinosaurs did, amongst many other reasons.
Isn't that assuming that we have the technology to live on the moon, not just visit it, but actually live up there?
Yo, why do they have?
No, I'm not saying live on the moon. I'm saying, hold on, Issa. I'm not saying live on the moon. I'm saying you keep going with space travel. You don't just go across the street and then go back and circle your block forever. You further human space travel, knowing that we could end any minute like the dinosaurs did.
But we've been doing that in other ways, right? We've been sending rockets up to the ISS and to do other missions. We haven't just been focused on the moon. So again, I'm going to ask you again. Other than just like a vague feeling that we should have done a whole heap of things.
Before we go on,
hey, I'm just trying to finish my sentence, buddy. Okay.
Okay.
Other than like a vague like vibe that we should have done this thing, what is like, say, a financially compelling reason, or what funding would have been allocated by what Congress to NASA in order to send another moon mission out, and why would they have bothered doing that?
Yeah, before we move on to that, the first thing you said was wrong 1 minute ago when you said we have been doing that. We haven't been doing that. We crossed the street, came back, and then circled the block for the past 25 years. We haven't been doing the thing you said.
So we haven't been creating new rockets. There haven't been new space organizations creating new rockets to get us to outer space and creating new missions like unmanned probes that have to be sent up in rockets and then launched and then unfolded wirelessly through like wireless communications. Like, we haven't been advancing all of that technology over time.
Those things aren't.
We have not been advancing human space travel at all. We have went nowhere in the past 25 years. We've been circling the block, not going anywhere. We're going nowhere.
What do you mean?
Heard that phrase? You ever heard that phrase? You're going nowhere fast.
What?
That's what.
What about that moon? What about that mission to go repair that probe? The furthest we went out to space was after the moon mission.
How we haven't gone anywhere in 25 years.
The furthest we've gone out into space was after moon missions. It was to go repair a probe or something. I can't remember the exact name.
Well, they shifted everything. Yeah, after the moon landings. And then the whole 70s,
none of they
shifted it all to the shuttle.
Yeah, real
quick. That was all local. Yeah, and then the ISS. It's all been local stuff.
None of this is answering my question. Why do you, besides just your vague feelings and justification for a presupposed belief,
you keep saying
think we should have gone and done all these things on the moon?
Vague feelings?
Yeah, real quick.
What would it have achieved?
Why do they have bases?
Stop interrupting, Galatrax. What the hell?
Shush, Jesse.
Why do they have bases in Antarctica?
Hey guys,
That was my
here's my joke. I've been saving up this joke, but now I'm preloading this joke. It won't be as funny. I was gonna say, all right, guys, Issa's here. He's gonna host for the next hour or so. There's no rules when Issa's here. There's just none at all. So just complete free for all. No one's getting timed out. No one's getting muted.
Right on. That's the kind of
Anyway, so the point.
fucking. Can I get a fucking USA in the background somewhere?
USA.
No.
Okay, good for you. Okay,
Dude,
so
dude, the other morning, like I wasn't even at my mic, but dude, it was haywire in here.
Oh my god.
I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
I was like, you don't have to do it like
Yeah.
that. And he's like,
Is there
nope,
an
I
answer?
do.
Is there an answer to the
guys,
gentleman's
there's too
question?
How about this?
There's
For the answer left
Wait.
lane. Can you
Crazy how
steel man
people
it?
hear me trying to
Many
respond to stuff and they don't let me.
people talking, guys. There's way too many people talking. Everyone, hold on. Hello.
Well, Issa was kind of going, and I jumped in and made that joke. So
Okay, so can I
I know,
finish
but
what I
I'm
was
trying
saying?
to calm that shit down because there's mad people trying to talk at once and they're not like.
Well, yeah, I just want to point out.
Issa, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out the idea of like, well, why do we go to like Antarctica? Like, there's not much there, right? Like, how much gonna study the cold? Like how cold it gets? Like, I don't know what do we study in there? And if we're willing to like put the resources in something as like Bayna or something as simple as like it being in Antarctica, like studying the snow over years and years and years time, like what makes you think they wouldn't have totally taken advantage of like having a spot on the moon to like record all kinds of data? They would have set up like a telescope. They would have set up. They would have continued to advance the technology if you know what I mean, if reasonably so. I think that's not too far a stretch.
Yeah,
I
they
don't.
have satellites orbiting the moon. They have reflectors, and we also haven't explored major parts of the Earth yet. So to think that we're supposed to be creating like rocket launches off of the moon already, I don't know. You really are expecting a lot from these people.
Well, no, I'm saying
got
you're
retro
asking us a
reflectors,
lot
bro.
to believe in this shit. You know,
They
you're
got
asking a
retro
lot.
reflectors. They got retro reflectors, bro. Go ahead.
Yeah, they do.
Well, you're also asking a lot for us to believe that
They have a
went
lunar
in the first
reconnaissance
place.
orbiter.
Can I
For
bring up a point
Galaxy
real
or
quick?
whoever's
What was the known surface temperature of the light side of the moon, and then the dark side of the moon as well? Wasn't it something like 260 something degrees Fahrenheit? Something crazy.
Crazy good boots. They had some crazy good boots, bro.
Oh, okay, cool.
By the way, sorry, Issa, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was trying to get my joke in, and then I was like far from the mic. So.
Issa's here. It's fine. There's no rules. There's no rules.
There's
Issa's
no
there. We're
rules.
good.
Thank you. I love that, dude. I
You can
so
just do
love
anything
that.
you want.
That's right. Well, it's like, I mean, I'm willing to take it. It's like, I'm not going to be offended. You know what I mean? Like, hey, bring it. Like, we're here to debate these ideas. Like, if you're going to get so butthurt over ideas and people getting animated about a fucking idea, like we're a bunch of nerds. We get excited about like the Federal Reserve and shit. Like, come on.
Let the shit show ensue.
Right.
Well, no, the thing is, it's not even really about being offended. Like, the thing that it does is it actually just distracts from the actual truth combos at the end of the day. Like, we don't really mod for it, to not hurt someone's feelings, even though I do think feelings are real and, like, people do get offended and, like, it causes hormones to go off in their body. I mean, there are real things to, like, the way we treat people. But it really is more because, like, what it does to the conversations, because you can be right in the middle of, like, something that's, like, intellectual or interesting. And if one person's like, fuck you, but, once it goes off like that, then it's just, like, now... Like, at least 70% of what you're listening to now is just insults, and you're getting very little. You're not getting as much actual knowledge and info.
Well, dude, if people aren't going to concede, like, for instance, the only thing that gets me worked up is when people aren't going to, like, concede to certain sets of information. Like the other day, like one of the, you know what I mean? I was pissed off because this dude just was arguing about the idea that, and maybe I just took the bait, you know what I mean, in a certain sense, but I was having fun. Is like, that the earth doesn't present itself as flat and that it presents itself as a globe. And it was like, it's just like, when people just won't like let certain ideas that exist, like that have been common ground, part of the argument for a long time.
That's true, Issa. That's true, because there's something called teachability index. It's 1 to 10 willingness to learn and 1 to 10 willingness to change. So sometimes people aren't just prepared or willing to change for maybe subconscious reasons. But thankfully, there are really well-studied globe defenders who've given up the moon landing story.
Well,
So
they've
much
given up
respect to
the
that.
rational concessions, and I can appreciate that. It's like, but when someone's going to come in and like just like, you know, talk shit, tell you how retarded you are. You know, there's like, you know, I just think like, you know, I find it like, okay, that's like an invitation to go there. I don't know what to say. Like, especially if they're not gonna like accept basic facts.
Well, you know, like battle rapping, you know, there's like battle raps and they do insult each other, but it's like it can be creative and funny. And I mean, there's different levels of it. Like, see, I think there's something it's interesting. It's sort of like if you're like fighting with your friend, but you know it's for fun, and one guy's trying to get on top of the other. It's sort of like, and you know, but it's like friendly versus like someone actually trying to like kill someone or do something like more darker in that
Well,
way.
I mean, I used to.
So,
I
yeah.
think of it like this is how I've always picked fights my whole life, though. You know what I mean? If I got like if somebody's acting tough, I just don't know, man. It's like, you know, it just comes to blows, like intellectual blows like that. And either you got the wit or you don't. I don't freaking know, or you got, I don't know, or it's funny.
No,
Or
man.
it's
I'm
not.
more curious if you ask yourself the questions I ask myself. I mean, if you
Well,
want me
just
to come in here and try to make jokes and games with you guys, if that's what
Well,
you
it's
want
not.
me,
Well,
no,
like
yeah,
yo, like
Issa, I guess what I was kind of more trying to say
I'm
is that
being
like,
interrupted.
no, I thought you were done, but no,
No,
I'm not.
I'm
We're
not.
not
I
talking
wasn't
about
done
jokes
at
and
all.
games.
I've
Like, I
been
feel like you
murdered.
guys are just,
They murdered me.
you
They
guys are
murdered
ignoring
me.
what I was bringing up before, which I think is detrimental to your belief in a flat Earth.
All right, just hold on, dude. You were pausing. It sounds like in your mic is like buzzing, and then it's like when you're talking, it buzzes, and then it stops buzzing. So it sounds like you're done. But if you want to say your point, go ahead. I would just wanted to say something, but go ahead. Go ahead if you want to go first.
Yeah, I don't know how we got so far away from how flat Earth really doesn't work. Like, we don't want to address how there's really no model to explain the stars. That's just crazy to me. That should be the main concern every day, figuring that out.
Well, there is, and there has been since the dawn of time, which is what every planetarium in the whole world is based on. But we can go into that. Let me
Two
just say,
hemispheres.
Issa, well, we can hold on. Just Issa, I was just gonna say that
This is
no. I
this
was
is,
oh,
this is
sorry.
killing me.
No,
This
I was
is
just
this
dude.
is
Well,
killing me.
no. What I was saying is like in like okay, there's like the Jerry Springer vibe, right? There's like that thing, but then there's also like the rap battle thing. When people do rap battles, they do throw insults, but they're like clever and witty and funny, and it is kind of like you're trying to win with truth, but then you're also winning with even like, and it's not really like you're not really trying to like degrade them as a person. You're almost like pumping them up by insulting them. It's like when they do the roast, you know, when they do the big roast, and you're actually kind of big upping the person, even though you are insulting them. And maybe like even within the rap battle thing, you can have some of that like aggressive, like I'm really against you, but really they know it's like for the fun, you know, there's like love at the end of the day. Is like, you know, so I'm just saying there could be a way in which it's not actually degrading, but also can be like witty and funny. So it's just kind of the idea of like in this topic of a lot of these topics of having like that could be like it's like an actual style, you know, like I'm calling it rap battle style, but it's like where like maybe there are like just like insults and put downs. Like I mean, it may not be for everyone, but I mean, I'm just saying like the way that rap battles do that or whatever. I'm just saying like in this topic or in these things, like, you know, and that is how like certain live streams have been over the years. And then back in the day, you know how it was too. And like that wasn't really all fun and games though. What's going on? But then there's times when it is as well. But I don't know. I'm just saying like I could see that kind of perspective on it.
No, I feel
I think it's a sign of respect.
I'm just glad we got that other guy to stop talking.
What's up?
I'm just glad we got that other guy to stop talking.
With what Gio said, it's like the WWE, man. If you do like a really harmful move on somebody, or in a rap battle, if you insult them, knowing that they can take it, that they're not weak, that they're not offended, it's a sign of respect. You're saying, I don't think you're weak. I think you can take this insult and not be broken. It can be a sign of respect to insult someone or perform a WWE move or a rap
Well,
battle.
yeah, I think like, but here's the thing: it only departs. It only departs into that realm when some like, because I think some of us just we're bringing up ideas, and then someone comes in to try to shit on it, or like, you know, to take it to some level that like is you know, mundane, boring, or crass or whatever, and it's just like it lowers the frequency of the conversation. And I just think like, you know, there's like a you know, a good group of people in here that can have a great conversation, but when people aren't gonna concede to certain rational points to allow a conversation to develop, that infuriates the hell out of me. And I'm like, what did the MP like? I'm like, almost like kind of like I was saying the other day, like, you know, it's like a bunch of like flat Earth pilgrims coming to the temple, and like you can't get in, dude. Sorry. Like I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Like You're just not cool. Like I don't know. There's a certain element to that, and maybe at times, I'm not in the temple or whatever the fuck, but like I just think there's an element of uh creativity and like interesting shit that flat earthers have to talk about that globers don't necessarily possess, and like. Even if
You're
like,
You're not talking
but I
about
don't
anything
mind.
right now, dude.
But my litmus test is not globe or fucking flat Earth either. It's about how you kind of like accept the facts of the case. Like it's like left lane. Like I big up left lane. I've defended left lane, and you know what I mean, or whatever. And like maybe whatever. I defend like real people that I think are cool people. I
Yeah,
think
left
like
lane's cool.
left lane I think can also handle like me joking about North Korea like as much as he might step up and talk about it and then I might talk more shit about it. I think he can handle it. It's not gonna hurt him. It's like Trouble About. Like she was here the other day. That bitch has got thicker skin than fucking anyone. She doesn't give a fuck if I you know what I mean? Like I just think I don't know. Like
No,
but
we
when we
got you.
depart
We got you,
when we
bro.
depart from rationality though, that pisses me off.
Yeah, how about
You
this?
think left lane's
Maybe
cool?
this isn't a
Not.
okay.
So yeah,
No, we
you're just
got you, bro.
saying if
You
there can't be.
Whoa,
Oh,
whoa, whoa.
sorry. You're just saying if
Jeremy.
there.
Sorry, Jeremy was
Jeremy.
trying to get in.
All right, Jeremy first. Sorry, go ahead.
Some goofy stuff going on right now.
We got you, bro. You think left lane's cool? That's why you're at the bottom of my fucking list, Issa.
I know, even worse. Even worse, yo, dude. No matter what, as much as Jim Panda hates me these days, I still like Jim Panda. It's just I like the guy. There's nothing that anyone's gonna make me not like him about.
I think everyone should take this approach instead of getting personal. You get beside your friend or your brother or the stranger, and you say, "I'm on your side. Let's suplex this idea." I'm not going to suplex you. I'm going to suplex this idea, and see what you think. But thank you.
Yeah, the idea that a water level curves. Yeah, let's suplex.
Crazy.
Well, that's why,
Settle
like,
down,
actually,
Rob.
when you think about it, like, even like I've always kind of tried to point out, like, in a legal setting and in a flat Earth debate, like, it's like we're not owning these ideas; we're just proposing them. And like, it's just the proposition of the idea that sets these people off. And then they're like, this is what you believe. And you're retarded because you probably drink your pee because you're a flat earther. It's like they're the ones that take it to the next level. The way that we're dealing with it or should be dealing with it is we're posing a question. We're saying, hey, don't they fucking, make aircraft for, to be over a flat, non-rotating fucking Earth? Like, well, what's that about? And they're like, well, you don't understand. Is there Aristophanes? And you're like, what? Like, this is their
So true.
paperwork. This is their
So true.
paperwork, right? It says a flat, non-rotating Earth, and they're like, yeah, but you don't understand about Einstein and gravitation. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, we're just asking questions, and the more we're like departed from the ideas, like you just kind of
Do
said.
you want answers to your questions, or do you just want to keep playing in the mud?
Well, I
Well,
just
let
like,
me say this though. Like, well, there's kind of a thing. Like, all right, so dude, like, it's like some people want to just push the globe and educate you why it's a globe, and then berate you until you buckle. Whereas other globe earthers are actually like wanting to figure out themselves. Like they're not just trying to, put you back into the box or whatever. They actually want to explore it, and they're usually the ones that will make some even the very mild concessions, and then it just opens up so much more potential when there are just the very. And I always try to give concessions as well too, because you mentioned that before, like in any way that can, because it just opens up the conversation to be a lot more interesting. Because that was what you were originally saying, that like if some simple concessions can't be made, then you were getting like more irate, because it's like, all right, well, if we can't get through that, then what do we do? Let's kind of tough love this guy back into.
Well, it's like I kind of like the example. I like the example I came up with, because it's like, where it's like I'm pointing at an apple, and I'm saying, okay, so this presents itself as an apple, and then they're like, well, what you don't understand is it's a fruit, and you're like, well, fucking, but this is an apple, and you're like, it's a fucking fruit, you fucking idiot, and you're like, dude, like, where are we going in this conversation? Because they're like, yeah, the banana's a fruit
You're
too,
not
so
going
that's why
anywhere
you're
right
wrong.
now, dude.
It's like, well, dude, that's what it's like talking to you guys. To be honest, that's what it feels
I
like.
don't know where you think this is going.
Sometimes,
no, but that's what I'm saying. It's like the ones that are. It's
I
like
know
there's like
everybody wants to complain when someone has questions.
I mean, maybe this is a bit harsh, and I'm not calling anyone this, but like almost somebody who's like a re-indoctrinator. Like they want to re-indoctrinate someone, and I guess what does indoctrination mean? All in that, but I mean from the perspective that, like even from I would say for myself, I was definitely indoctrinated into like accepting the globe as being what the Earth was for obviously a good majority of my life until I, thought more into it and all of that. So.
Geo.
Right, the suspense again.
Oh yeah, sorry, my mic cut out. No, I was just saying I was indoctrinated. From my own perspective, I'm saying I'm not trying to call anyone else anything. I'm saying I feel like I was definitely indoctrinated into the, the whole globe model, and I did generally accept it in that way. And then I have become unindoctrinated. But then it seems like there's people who want to re-indoctrinate me. So that's just my experience.
It shouldn't be negative.
Like some want to do that. Others want to like explore the topic and maybe want to like figure it out for themselves. But then some just really, you want to just push it and push it and push it. It may just be them defending their position. But
Well,
then
it's like when they're torturing Winston in 1984, and they're like, like it's not like you love Big Brother. It's like you could see the obstruction. It's like you know what I mean. You've got to agree that you could see the obstruction, and the Earth's definitely a curve, and then they shoot you in the head. You know what I mean?
Let's just go back to the simple arguments. There's no measurable curvature. There's no measurable motion or rotation, and you can't have a pressurized system next to the vacuum of space. I really like those 3 points. Really hits home. Until I can see evidence of any of those three, yeah, I'm where I'm at. Water's level. Period.
You didn't really measure it to be a horizontal plane over 20,000 miles, though.
Oh, yeah, well, where's your drop over distance to make it a ball?
Yeah, we measure drop over distance every time we observe things.
Like what?
It's literally not.
Like
Jesse
literally
has
every surveyor
observations. Jesse has observations with his 82 theodolites of the horizon above level. Sorry, the horizon above horizontal. That literally debunks the thing you just said once again. Instantly debunked.
Yeah, that's because of the height above the water and the level. I'm sorry, and the conditions of the day.
That's not. No, it's not. What?
I don't know what he said.
I said it's because
there's not always measurable drop. Then
you never know what's going on, do you? Do you even care what's
there's
going on?
Always you said there's always drop. We always see observed drop. However, Jesse has made measurements in air quotes of the horizon above horizontal. That's the opposite of drop. That's concave Earth.
Yeah.
That's concave Earth.
Yeah, the higher you go, the further things drop when you're looking at the horizon.
Welcome to concave Earth.
No, this is going above. He's saying above the horizon. It's not going up in
altitude.
altitude.
I know which one he's talking. He's talking about the sign in front of the water, which appears above the horizontal, which is because of refraction.
Dude, are you getting
It's all the time. It happens all the time, dude.
What is that buzzing?
Are you at the barber?
You might be next.
I'm on a giant machine. I think it's me. I'm on a giant machine.
No, you're all right. It's actually on Jesse's mic. I was saying that earlier, Jesse, because that's the thing. Like it goes on and off, and there's like a loud kind of buzz sound. Yeah.
He's cutting the boys' hairs.
It's not super loud. It's not extremely loud, but it is like there.
Are you trimming your nose hairs?
So there's no measurable curvature, no drop over distance. What about motion or rotation? Do we have to just accept that? Just because it's part of the heliocentric belief system?
Yeah, I mean, well, let's stick to one subject because you guys like to jump around right now.
Well, there's no measurable
refraction.
curvature.
Hold on, peacefulls. I'm in the middle of a sentence. Okay, so refraction caused the horizon to appear above the level, right? The level line of sight. That would be due to refraction on a flat Earth. So there's refraction right there. Boom.
Okay, so what?
Not so what, dude. Literally every other observation, well, not every single one, but like most of the time you have drop over distance. It's what all surveyors measure.
Incorrect.
Is the horizon above horizontal?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you think that's a black swan or something? Now all of a sudden we don't know where things are?
What are you talking about?
Jeremy just told you, man. You're just skirting off those. Like,
the way I think of it is that there's the way I think of it is that there's a ratio. Like let's say you have 0, like the absolute zero line, then you have above and below. And due to the warping effects and the distortion in the environment and refraction, etc., you could get that just like in the Skunk Bay where it goes up and down, it kind of wavers up and down. But there would still be like a center point, like there would be the base. And this is what, like, if you really to get in deep into some of these observations, is looking for what the baseline geometry is versus the actual conditions of the day. And the thing is, the better the conditions are and the clearer they are, the more of an extended plane is revealed. And then when there's distortion, there's just much like distortion that usually happens at closer distances. But when we get really clear and far, it's just extended planar as that foundational geometry.
Except it's not.
So I'm just saying it's like getting into the nuance of that because, yeah, I mean, you can't just take one thing and say, oh, it's above horizontal, therefore concave Earth, or it's below, therefore globe, or, you know, et cetera. When, you know, especially with observations at the ground level like that are definitely going to waver.
What is
But
even horizontal?
there's a lot more to the observations. There's a lot more to the observations than just that part, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
I
Jeremy.
just brought that up because he said we always observe drop or whatever, which obviously is not the case. So once again,
yeah, we can just move past that point and go to motion. How about motion?
No, let's not move past the point because you know it
Why not?
destroys your destroys
Why don't
your
you want to talk
presumption
about
of a
motion and
flat Earth.
rotation?
Why are you
Dude.
allowed to interrupt me when I'm in the middle of a sentence? That's my real question. So we know what causes the
That's 'cause
horizon to
Issa's
appear
here.
above a level line. We already know. Everybody wants to interrupt.
Okay, so there's certain observations that make it look concave and convex and flat. Can we move
Are you
on
saying
now?
that makes the ground concave?
No,
'Cause you
measurements
see it
do,
above a
bro.
horizontal?
Not observations, measurements.
Are
Like,
you
how about a
saying that
how about a
because the
24?
horizon appears? Listen,
Go ahead.
Misko. Are you saying that because the horizon appears above a level line, that it makes the Earth concave?
According to you.
No, I'm saying it's because
no,
you don't understand the position yet. You still don't know what the globe claims. It's because of refraction, dude. It's because of the temperature.
That's
okay, but that's not us observing drop. But that's us not observing drop, though. When you said we always observe drop, I hit you with a black swan that showed no, the thing you said's not true.
All you got to
Once
do
again.
is go. All you got to do is go to observations where it is dropping.
So cherry picking.
Okay,
Cherry
but that's
picking.
not always.
No, it's literally
Just
like
you said
all the time. It's always
you
dropping.
said we always observe drop. How can you not follow this?
He
You
just
we
said it
always
again.
Dude, you said we always observe. This is easy to follow. I could get a. You said we always observe drop. I showed you an instance with Jesse where he measured the horizon above horizontal. That's not observing drop. That's the opposite.
Right. And we can just move
thanks
on.
for Jesse Gordon, not for any of you guys. Right. He showed
Hey,
me that
real quick, how do you falsify refraction? You have any idea?
Yeah, you can control in a lab the conditions of whatever you're looking through.
How do you falsify the claim of refraction explaining that?
We know that the density of the air bends the light.
I didn't ask you to make an argument for refraction. I asked you what's the falsification factor for refraction. Do you not understand?
Go to a vacuum. Yeah,
Go
look
to
at
a
how
vacuum.
light doesn't bend when the density of the air is less.
Okay, so basically you're claiming an unfalsifiable thing. You know that's fallacious, right? Are you aware
Nothing
that's
fallacious
fallacious?
about what I'm saying. But if you want to try to make everything sound crazy, put it in your
I'm
own
trying to make it
word.
sound crazy. I'm asking you what the falsifying factor is, i.e., how would one prove you wrong by saying that's refraction that explains that phenomenon? If you don't have a way that you can prove it wrong, that's an unfalsifiable claim. That's a fallacious argument.
I just said send light through a vacuum. You didn't hear me because I don't know.
No, I heard you.
How do you know if the light's going straight in the vacuum, though? Did you measure it?
How
Because
much
the
of a
medium isn't
vacuum?
bending the light. There is no heavy medium.
Okay, but you'd have to measure. You'd have to measure it though to know the light's not bending, right? You can just say light's not bending in a vacuum. That's a cool claim, but have you measured it though to know it's not bending?
Yeah, how do you eliminate
Yeah,
refraction?
you can measure the position of the light relative to where it's being sent from. If it hasn't,
you can't
deviated
eliminate.
from, if it hasn't deviated from the source, then you could presume that the medium isn't bending the light significantly. It's easy to do.
All right, I have a proposal for the
Refraction
room.
has nothing to do with light. You have no idea what Snell's law is, bro.
Well, hold on, I got a proposal
Yes, I
for the
do.
room. we can go back and forth on refraction, this unfalsifiable claim, all day. Can we go to motion and rotation? Why are you afraid of that? Can we just go there? Is there any provable measurement of Earth moving or rotating?
Electric ring gyroscopes. Why not bring a mechanical gyro on a plane?
Jesse said there ain't no
gyro.
such thing as halfway crooks.
Speaking of rap battle. So there's no measurement of motion or rotation, no drop over distance. You want to go to the
Jesse,
next
with
point?
the ring laser, you mentioned the ring laser gyroscopes. So you're talking about the Sagnac effect?
I'm talking about the 15 degree per hour drift that's picked up by ring laser gyroscopes.
Sagnac effect.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, the Sagnac effect. So are you saying that what are you saying the cause of that is, of that Sagnac effect is?
Earth rotation, obviously.
Okay, and how have you isolated that it's indeed Earth rotation?
I don't know. How do you isolate ether drift?
Red herring.
Oh, what's the cause of the drift?
Well, I don't think anyone talked about an
Well,
ether
the stars
drift.
drift 15
Is
degrees.
this,
Don't claim ether drift. How do you
is this
isolate
your
that? That's
proposal?
Earth rotation.
relax.
That's your claim. Your
This is
claim
what
is
you're
that that's
proposing?
Earth rotation.
Galax,
How
relax.
do you know that?
Guys, hold on, guys. Everyone relax.
Oh, let Galatrax go ahead. I was just interjecting a little bit, but go ahead.
Keep my track,
look,
Galatrax.
we don't need
Keep
to
my
be
track.
we don't need to be dishonest, right? So if someone asks you a question, you make a claim, I know that that's Earth's rotation. And someone asks you an honest question, a good faith question, how do you know that that's Earth's rotation? And you go, how do you know it's not unicorn farts? That's retarded. So could you answer the question?
Yeah. Listen close, Galax, relax. So, if the Earth is rotating 15 degrees per hour, that'll cause the stars to rotate 15 degrees per hour. If it's
How do you
ether
know
wind,
that?
then you're saying that ether wind is causing the 15.
No
But
one
why
said that.
would?
No one
How
said
do you
that.
know
What
it?
did you
I
say is
don't
causing
accept
the
premise
rotation?
one. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
accept
the
premise
issue. That's
one.
the
Hang
thing.
on, hang on.
Let's
We
just go through
can't.
this one thing at a time. Yeah, nobody said ether drift or ether wind or anything. Hold on, somebody muted you, Jesse. We'll try to leave you. Let's try not to mute anyone. Just
Yeah,
here.
Issa's here, guys. Come on.
He's here. There's no
Oh
rules.
no, we do have to have. Okay, we do. I mean, but let's just. I mean, unless we really want to try to have like a no rule hour or something. But or
Yeah,
something.
you guys can't even acknowledge that
It's
it's like
total
1 versus
haywire.
8 people and you're all erratic.
All right, just relax, Jesse. I'm gonna just let's just not mute anyone. Let's try not to. So Jesse, just please let's just go one at a time. Try not to interrupt. Okay, so hold on.
Let me make my point. I
The
got
thing is,
interrupted.
Jesse, hold on. I had asked you. I'm not trying to. It's not a gotcha. I'm not trying to drill you. I'm personally just asking if these other guys are getting more aggressive. Or not. I'm not saying anyone is. This other. I'm just saying. I'm just asking.
Chilling,
I'm
bro.
not trying to. I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm just saying. With the Sagnac effect, you're saying the cause is the rotation of the Earth. I asked, how have you isolated that? You then said something about an ether drift. Ether drift hasn't been mentioned. If we're gonna, or you said ether wind, or whichever one you said, we could talk about that after. But it is a red herring for this conversation. So I'm just asking how you isolated that that's the cause, because you claimed it was the Earth rotation causing Sagnac effect. I just said, how have you isolated that? We could talk about ether drift after. So could you answer how you've isolated that? If you haven't, you could just say you
I'm
haven't.
going to say what I wanted to say. Or do you not like that?
Well, it would just be fair, I guess, just in the terms of what in terms of the exchange. I was just asking how
Just
have you
let me
isolated it?
say what I want to say. Enough policing for 1 moment, please.
Dude, he asked you a fucking question.
Hold on, dude. Relax. Everybody needs to relax.
Yeah, you relax. You just screaming at the freaking server
If the
earlier, bro.
15
He
degrees
asked
per
you a
hour drift-
question.
Yeah, you're not going
Elbow,
to
hold up.
respond.
Let's just let him.
Just let him respond.
Yeah, just let him go. No one interrupt. Just you got your full time. Go ahead.
Yeah, everybody's freaking out. If the 15 degrees per hour drift is not due to Earth rotation, then what is it due to?
I don't know. How do you know it's Earth
Well,
rotation?
You know what
Yeah,
else
like,
rotates
wait.
at 15 degrees per hour?
Wait.
Stars.
Is that a
Hold
claim
on, you're
though?
interrupting because you don't like this. The
Wait, I
stars
just want to
rotate at. Hold
understand the
on, you're
claim.
interrupting. You don't like this.
No, you're interrupting him, dude.
No,
Yeah,
he's
you're just
literally
bulldozing at
interrupting
this
me.
point, man.
This
You
is a clown
asked your
show.
question.
You're literally
Everybody
paused.
wants to have a clown show.
No, Jesse, you made
Guys,
your
hold
claim
on.
and you asked a question, right? You made your claim, you asked a question. You said, how do you know? What else do you know that's that 15 degree per hour rotation? That's not
Can you
a
stop
claim.
trying to police what I'm saying? I would like to demonstrate free speech here. Thank you.
Okay, so you're interrupting me now, even though you constantly bitch
Can I
about being
respond?
interrupted.
I would like to argue. I would
You
like
don't
to make the
understand my
argument that
position.
if you
Nobody
were
can
on
steel man
Earth,
what I'm
real
saying.
quick, if you were on Earth and in order for the Earth to spin, at 15 degrees per hour, and for you to look at the stars and see that motion, the stars would all have to be at an infinite distance away from the observer. Are all the stars at an infinite distance away from the observer?
I'm going to say what I planned on saying before everybody freaked out.
They're
If the
not. by the
stars
way.
are
No one's freaking out.
Can't help
Stop
yourself.
commenting.
You
People
guys,
stop
all right,
ad
you guys,
homing.
we gotta just reset. Jesse, come on, let's stop all the taunting and all this stuff. Let's just reset because I think it's much more interesting to
I
get through
agree.
these points. We can have a shit show later, or if we really want to, but it's just like let's maybe go like try to just whoever's speaking, let's let them say their full point. It doesn't have to be all contentious. Jesse, yes, I was saying how have you isolated Earth rotation? You were saying how is it something else, and that's a different conversation. But anyways, go ahead and answer how you'd like. You don't have to answer it. I know there isn't one because I know it hasn't been done. So I would understand. It would just be cool if you were like, you know what, I haven't isolated it, but I think it's that for this, this, and that reason. That would be interesting to hear.
That's
if
an
you were-
honest answer. Yeah. That would be an honest answer.
Coming from a
What
very
about Jesse
dishonest
here?
person, that's ironic.
Yeah, it's coming
So
about.
yeah, what I
it's
was
coming
saying
from
was,
Jesse.
Okay, so we don't need the personal
nobody
attacks
can help
every
we don't,
time
we
you
don't.
open your
No
mic.
one can help themselves.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're
you could.
personally
Hey, yo,
attacking people, dude.
hey, yo, let
Yeah,
me
if you
personally
personally
people.
attack someone every time you open your mic, I'm going to point out that you're personally attacking someone every time you open your mic. Enough, man. Just stop doing it. You don't have to do that.
all right,
Yeah,
thanks, Officer Gallitrack.
I'm not ad homing you, bro. Like, let's just keep it cool and cordial.
All right, let me respond to the thing you said. Okay, so you have an electric ring gyroscope. It's picking up a 15 degrees per hour drift. If the cause is not Earth rotation, then it must be some kind of force acting on it. I refer to that as ether wind. Okay, we also see a 15 degrees per hour drift on the stars and the sun. So you're saying that the 15 degrees per hour drift is happening to the same force is acting on the gyroscope and the stars? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. I don't know what exactly you're addressing because no one brought any of that up. We just asked a simple
That
question.
would have to be the case.
Can I finish my statement, please? We simply asked, how do you
Sure, go ahead,
know that
Testicles.
he can't help himself? All right.
Dude, now you're just interrupting him. Are you for real? Dude,
I don't know,
come
maybe there's
on.
a delay. I don't know.
Dude, just come on. Pass
There ain't
the
no
mic.
delay,
Let him respond.
It's just like I'm just framing the question again because it's just a simple question. How do you know that 15 degree per hour drift is Earth rotation? Granting that that is indeed a true measurement, right? Like a 15 degree per hour drift. Like, let's just grant you that that's true. How do you know that makes it Earth rotation?
Easy. I'll just grant you that it's not true. Now it's some kind of ether wind force.
What the hell was that? Hold on. Wait. What the hell was that? Easy.
Yeah, you
I'm
don't
gonna grant you
understand
that it is not it. We're asking you, how do you know what it is?
If that's not it, and I don't, if you don't know why it is, and I don't know why it is, we're in the same boat.
Yeah, why did you claim that if you're just gonna drop the claim as soon as someone asks you to substantiate it? Like, you just claim that, you insult people constantly, and then someone asks you to substantiate it, you waste so much time, and then you're like, alright, well fuck it, I'll drop it. What is that?
Yeah, there's
You're
also
done.
Coriolis force if you don't want to talk about the gyroscope.
Dude, he gets off on this shit. Okay, he loves being the center of attention. I'll asking him questions and him pretending not to answer them and all the rest.
Yeah, this is a strange way of argumentation. Does anyone else have like an interesting argument they want to talk about?
Yo, I thought that argument was pretty dope. Like, if the, you know what I mean, wouldn't the stars have to be at an infinite distance away for them to all appear to be moving, like, consistently? So then, therefore, if the stars are not at an infinite distance away, there's no way that we're living on a spinning globe.
You know what would cause that?
infinite
Earth
distance,
rotation.
though? Why would they have to be
Earth
at an infinite
rotation would
distance?
cause the 15 degrees per
Because
hour drift for every
that's the
star.
reasoning for why they look that way and move at that rate, is because you can just imagine they're at an infinite distance away. But since they're not, it's kind of crazy.
You know what would cause that?
What
You know what would cause that, Torah? Beg the question, insert it.
Yeah, I
Right,
don't know
so-
what you think you're contributing there.
so
but
Jesse,
Yeah,
you don't
what you
have-
all
Hold
you
on, I
doing
was
is
gonna say
begging the question, bro.
All right,
I was gonna
let's let Biasicles kind of steer the ship for a few.
I just want to have a good faith conversation. If you don't know the answer to that question, we can move on, or unless someone else who has that has an answer to that question of proving Earth rotation or motion. Does anyone actually have an answer? And if not, we can just move on to the next point. Very simple.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question without begging the question.
So there's no answer to that question. All right, that point
I
holds.
had an answer, and everybody tried to dogpile.
Well, the answer
we asked you, how do you know it is that? We asked you, how do you know it is that? And then you say, no, let's just drop it. I'm going to leave it to you. It's not that.
Well, no, you said the Sagnac effect, basically, which we then, you were saying the rotation of the 15 degrees and all that. We then were using the term Sagnac effect as well. But however, whatever terminology you want to use, but we were referring to the same thing. And then you were saying that's how you know Earth's rotating. And then, yeah, that's why we got to the point of like, okay, how have you isolated that? Or how do you know it's that? And then from there, you would have either given evidence or told us why, or said that you don't have that. And then therefore, you don't actually have the wouldn't have the ability to really claim it with evidence.
And that's fine. You could say I don't know. That's just your belief that it's Earth rotation. We can just.
And your belief would have to be that it's ether wind.
No.
So the point that I'm trying to make.
I already said my answer.
I'd like to
I
not
don't
be
know.
interrupted. I know you don't know because flat Earth doesn't actually explain anything. So anyway, if all the stars are moving at 15 degrees per hour, a great way to explain that is treating the Earth as a sphere. What else can make a force uniformly move every star at the same rate? It's if you're on an object moving.
Jesse,
how
just
else are you
quick
going to
question.
explain the uniform motion of all the stars? The 15
Okay, you've
degrees
said
per
enough.
hour of
Peter,
every star.
do you mind if I just ask you a quick question?
For thousands of years.
Toroidal sky. It's a toroidal field, magnetic.
So ether wind. Why did everybody act upset when I said ether wind?
What's ether wind?
Nobody has even said
Whatever
ether
you
wind.
think
The
is causing
thing
the
about the
15
whole,
degrees
hold
per
on
hour.
real quick. The thing about the whole ether wind thing, like if you're saying it is caused by Earth rotation, then ideally, like if it was like a court case kind of thing, like you would have to actually like substantiate your evidence for that. Or if it was like a, that kind of a style or like a debate where there is more like, particulars to that kind of stuff, like you would have to substantiate, that in a sense. And then if somebody else is saying that it is ether wind or ether drift, etc., or they're using those terms or something,
They're not
then
in
that
this
would be
room.
something that would be what they. That would be a conversation to have with them at that moment. So to just keep saying it is kind of like a loaded question because you're expecting someone to respond to something that they weren't. Because even if
you
someone,
don't have an answer.
Well, even
I
if
want to
somebody-
straw man you, Gio.
Even if somebody said the word ether drift, they would have to define what they mean, how it's, etc. So that you would have to do that with that person. Otherwise, it is kind of a straw man tactic.
Well, real quick, Rick did ask to get in. You said you wanted to ask a question, Rick.
Oh shit, right. Yeah, I didn't know if my mic was off or something. People
No,
just
you're good.
rolling
I
through
heard
because
you.
You're all excited and shit. Radio, cool. So Jesse, what is it? Can't remember quite exactly how I was going to phrase it, but you seem to sort of put a more of an emphasis on the fact that the globe has a conclusion, and that because someone says that they don't know, you think that the position of claiming that knowledge is like the causal effect is more powerful. But I just want to ask you the question, I suppose, is it more powerful to have a wrong idea about how something works, or is it more powerful to claim that you actually don't have a conclusive evidence for that, but we just suspect other things?
All right, you don't want to know things. You don't want to know how the globe works. I already know that.
No. That's not what I asked, dude. It's not about whether or not you want to know something. It's is it more useful and powerful to claim that you know the cause? I actually think that a wrong idea is more detrimental than just simply saying you don't know. Because once you say that you know something, you're already set within a paradigm, and you can't you start making assumptions based on that. And you start building this whole model that actually is based on an erroneous conclusion at the start. So why is it more powerful to claim that you have knowledge of that?
We have knowledge of a model that accurately represents what we see in reality.
Okay. And
what model?
Hold on. That part of the
model. Can you
model.
present your model? They don't have that model. He's never seen this model. Can you show me this model? Post it on live text for me, please. I would love to see
you've
this
never
model.
seen a globe before. Good for you.
No, I've seen a Google image of a animation, but I have not seen your globe model with the ether drift or the actual rotation or the gravity. Can you please present this?
No, you're kind of just taking
Download
the red herring though,
Stellarium.
Elbow. Like he
I
introduced the red
understand.
herring
I
with the
understand.
tariffs question.
I mean,
Derek
I
asked a pretty
understand it
direct question.
was.
You're kind of like letting him have it. You're giving him
I
the
understand that, but he's hilarious trying to say that we don't have a model, but he doesn't have a model either.
Holy crap, dude! Download Stellarium.
All right,
That's
hold
your
up.
model.
Let's
Get at it.
no. Let's go back. Let's just go back to a more specific question. In your model, you claim that okay, you trust and abide by the globe model. The issue of rotation and motion that's entailed in this model. How did you prove that?
I don't think you could prove things in science. I think there's evidence of things.
Okay, where's your evidence for said rotation or motion of Earth?
Yeah, a great way to explain counter rotation in the south, a south celestial pole, a north celestial pole, diverging star trails on the equator. The best way to explain that is treating Earth as a sphere. And it just so happens when you treat Earth as a sphere, you get all the accurate distances between land masses. It literally works so damn well that we've been using it for hundreds of years, maybe even
You must.
Jesse, are you familiar with
Hold on,
affirming
real
the
quick,
consequence?
Galatrax, real quick.
Yeah.
You must have missed Star Trail Week. It's like Shark Week. We do
Yeah.
it in here, but you guys can't even explain the diverging and converging star trails at the equator. Like when we were going over that, there's like 3 different reasons you got the own Glovers couldn't even agree with it. Some were saying you don't see it, some were saying you do see it, and it's perspective. It's all over the place.
Yeah, that's true.
All the things
Also,
Jesse
just
named though were not mutually exclusive. So which ones
real
are
quick,
mutually exclusive?
I just want to address the argument that Jesse made about southern star trails, right? That's affirming the consequent. If it's a globe, then the stars would look like this. The stars look like this, therefore it's a globe. That's his evidence for it being a globe, which is what Biasticles asked. That's definitionally affirming the consequent.
You're basing your flat
with
off of
denying
level
other
water, and
options
you haven't
too.
even measured it.
No, that's a
Whoa.
straw man. I never claimed
man
the
and
Earth
red
is
herring.
flat and it's based on level water.
Right, what
Now
makes
you're just
the Earth
deflecting.
flat?
Hang on. I didn't interrupt you when you were saying what you said. You affirmed the consequent. Your argument for why you believe there's curvature or motion is fallacious. You don't have a justified belief.
Because we're little tiny specks of humans on a gigantic ball.
That's what you think. Maybe in your head.
Yeah, that actually doesn't address what I said at all, Jesse.
Nothing.
I think you're just
I don't think you're saying much. I think you're all fluff.
You're done.
No, I think you're lost, bud. I proved that your argumentation doesn't work. It doesn't track. It's not valid.
What makes
lost.
the Earth flat for you to think it's not a ball?
Did I claim it's not a ball? Did I claim
Yes.
it's flat?
That's why you're here.
Do I need to claim either of those to say your argumentation is hot garbage? No.
All right, cool. So I'll ask
It's
the
not.
question.
Burn.
It's not affirming the
What
consequent.
makes the
Hold on, let's
It's
let dogs.
only
you guys are
flat.
all over the place right
Wait,
now.
wait. Let's let dogs get in. Go ahead, dogs.
Yeah, affirming the consequent is only fallacious if there's more than one potential consequent.
That's
so if
why
you
I
have
asked
something,
about mutual exclusivity.
Wait.
if you
What
have
did
a
you just say,
second consequent, affirming the consequent is only fallacious if you have one other thing that could be the cause of the consequent.
Where are you getting that from?
That's true, but I just said that's why I
Wikipedia
said
for
mutually
affirming the
exclusive.
So if you only have one potential,
He's saying if it's a true dichotomy. That's what he's saying. If
No.
it's a true if it's not a true dichotomy, then it can only be this one way. So he's claiming he has ultimate knowledge and can account for 100% absolutivity
Nobody's
that the
saying
Earth
that.
is a globe.
No, I'm trying to teach you
Hang on,
about
that's not
logic,
actually an
okay?
exception to affirming the consequence. So here's affirming the consequent, right? If my
Buddy,
phone
can
is
I
off,
just finish what I was saying, please? Is that possible?
you did. I
How
thought
about
you
these
finished
guys?
explaining it.
Because I was saying something just then when you started talking.
No, you finished saying it.
so-
Torres said something. Jesse said something, and then you started speaking again.
Stop talking.
I mean, Galatrax laid out a perfectly formed affirming the consequent.
Yeah,
Well,
so
okay,
if
so
my
the
phone is
problem
off,
is-
it will not ring. My phone is not ringing. Therefore, my phone is off? No, that doesn't track. That's not valid. It's not sound.
That's because there are other causes for that consequent of the phone not ringing, but there's no other cause other than it is geometrically a sphere or a cube, which it can't be a cube because we have angles. So there's no
That's
other
why.
potential
It could be a
No,
no study
why does
That's
wait?
why I
Why
asked
does
him
the
for
phone
I'm
not
not done
ringing?
yet. I'm not done. I'm almost there. I'm so close. So that
Golly.
means
Yeah, but you're just
that means
bulldozing, man. Finish up.
Yeah, hurry
that
up and finish.
in logic, that means it's not affirming the consequent. Affirming the consequent is when there's multiple causes for the consequent and you arbitrarily choose one. We haven't done that. There's only one cause for the consequent, so it's not affirming the consequent.
That's false.
Yeah, what
You
you're
have
saying is
So you're
absolute
saying
technically.
there,
Hang
knowledge.
hold on,
hang
guys.
on. Hang on. That guy just addressed what I said. Let me address him.
All
If
right.
my phone is off, then it will not ring. My phone is not ringing, therefore my phone is off. That argument doesn't track. It's not sound. It's not valid. It's not a valid
Okay.
argument because I'm not. Hang on, bud. Because I'm not considering other possibilities. So just because we don't have an explanation for something doesn't mean that your explanation is right. That's
You
appeal
don't
to
have an
incredulity. That's
explanation. Good
appeal to
job.
ignorance. Jesse, if
No,
you
it
can't not interrupt
definitionally
people,
does. That's part
dogs
of
are God.
affirming
If
the
you can't
consequent
not
definition.
interrupt people, why do you two constantly bitch about being interrupted?
So
If you guys
that's
can't
not
not
part of the
interrupt
affirming the
people,
You don't have
why
an
do you
consequent definition.
explanation?
bitch about being interrupted?
All right, just
That's not
hold up,
part of the
guys.
affirming the
Hold on for a second,
consequent
you guys.
definition.
Hold on. It's pretty active. We could go into the stage channel, which does make it like easier because then people can't just open their mics, and we could do that. Or like if one or two like mods want to like actually like host more so, and so like and then do like temporary mutes. But we got to figure out a way to have a good cohesive
Let's
combo.
just go
So we
one
could
at a
do.
time, guys. Yeah, one
It's
at a
East's
Yeah,
time.
let
fault.
Beasticles. You had a good idea. Let Beasticles run this shit for 5-10
Well,
minutes.
somebody has to like either run it then and like keep a list and say who talks and who doesn't, and then do little temp mutes if needed, like host it. Like that's one option.
All right.
Or we go into a stage channel, which kind of makes it to where there's
Well,
only a few people to mod instead of like 30 or whatever.
well,
Yeah.
Jesse and
It's
Dogs
Issa's
are.
fault.
Hold on, Jesse and Dogs are the minority in this conversation. So if you guys want to actually address a question, then we'll give you time to speak your point fully. So, Dogs, you are saying that what Jesse was saying is valid because it's the only explanation.
Yeah, exactly. There's no other potential explanation. The explanation itself is exclusive to that consequence.
So if there was another explanation, then what you're saying would be invalid.
You don't have one.
Exactly.
Hold on, can I address that? Can I address that, Please?
Sure.
Is it possible in the future for there to be a new explanation for this phenomenon that is not including the spherical geometry of the Earth?
No, because it's a mathematical conclusion, and mathematics doesn't have other potential answers. It's a logical structure that means it has rules that the final result of that logical structure must be true. So 1 + 1 is always 2 in every way.
That's literally affirming the consequence, bro.
So this doesn't sound like science then, because if you're saying it's 100%, this is all it can be. This is obviously not science, right?
Yep, he's saying it's
mathematics,
absolutely
correct.
true, and we can know it for a fact. There is no
Yeah, they're
question
claiming
about
ultimate
it.
knowledge. They're claiming ultimate knowledge, or they're affirming the consequence. So you're either being unfalsifiable or you're affirming the consequence. This is some hot garbage, man. What are you doing?
No, it's mathematics. So mathematics is like a logical
No, it's not.
rule set. So if 1 + 1 = 2, it always equals 2. You can't break out
What's
of that
securing
logical.
that? What is
You could go
securing
to some
that?
other type of mathematics, and that other type of mathematics may be completely different. But at the end
0
of the
+
day,
2.
all we have ever seen in reality is 1 + 1 = 2. So
0 + 2 =
mathematics
2 as well,
is
bro.
always true.
That's a man.
Yeah,
That's a man-made
Taylor
language.
can go next after Dogs or Gods is done trying to
Go ahead, Taylor.
explain away a failure of logic. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that those mathematical equations. That's absolutely right. 1 + 1 would = 2. But we see that 1 + 1 = 2. We see that there's a phenomenon. What we're actually deliberating on is what's causing the phenomenon. Why is it happening? So there are more than one explanation to different things. And so that would be affirming the consequent, because you're ignoring all the other explanations that have been given to you and saying this is the only option. And the unfalsifiability, that was really good. It's like where, oh yeah, there's no way you can prove this one wrong. But no, it's not the mathematics that we're disputing about. We know there's some phenomena happening. It's just, why is it happening? What's causing this to
Oh my
happen?
gosh. The irony. You say that you know that there's other explanations, yet nobody presents them. There is no other
Which one do
explanation
you
besides
think,
the globe.
Jesse? Which one do you think is mutually exclusive? Name one thing that's mutually exclusive to the globe.
Everything that we see happening in the sky is mutually exclusive to
Wow.
the globe. Yes.
Yeah, I think at this point, man, you're just trolling. I don't know if you're drunk or high or something, but this is absurd. You're just saying stupid, trolly things.
Okay,
All right,
but you
that's
guys
not a rebuttal to what I said.
haven't given the other.
You haven't given one example of something in the sky.
All right, guys, hold on 1 second. Jesse, hold on 1 second.
So,
Dogs, I'd like to go back and forth with you. So, do you have any way to actually prove that the 15 degree per hour rotation of the sky actually means the Earth is rotating?
but that's not the thing we're talking about. If you want to move to that, we can. But first, I just want to lock in this. Affirming the consequent is only an affirming the consequent. There are other potential.
Your microphone's like cutting out. Can you get closer to it? Your microphone's really bad right now.
Yeah, and Dogs, you may you got to fix your mic. Also, you may have come in a little bit late because actually there were these questions that were on the table, and there was these the points that he was bringing it back to. The affirming the consequent was just like a little side topic that was one part.
Yeah.
So.
I understand, Gio, but we can't move on if you guys can't follow basic inference rules. So affirming the consequent is only true, like it's only a fallacy, if there's other potential consequence. And for a mathematical rule, you can't have other potential consequence. It can't be 1 + 1 = 2 is an affirming the consequent because you say that in some other universe it could equal something other than 2. In the same way, you can't have a geometric shape that has 2 poles that doesn't have a 90 degree and it can be anything other than some curving oblate spheroid.
Yeah, that's not true though. You just made that up.
It could be a dodecahedron, bro.
It's definitely an affirmative consequent.
Show me how
the only
it's not,
time it's not an affirmative
true.
consequent. It definitely was an affirmative consequent. The only
Yeah,
time
it was,
it's not
and
an
he agreed
affirmative
that it was. He's like, "Oh, okay." Like you're the only one that's saying it isn't, and also
no,
your
hold on.
definition of affirming the consequent is wrong.
Hey,
You're
yo,
just
hold on.
wrong. You just made that up, man.
Hold on. But like, he's not making it up. But the issue is that you're trying to equate what you're seeing in the stars with the dimensional world that you're on. You're trying to, and it's not a bad idea to do. It's just the idea that to claim it in totality is what is offensive to us. It's not that it's not a bad idea. It's just that it's just like it's not the only answer.
Yeah, it
You know what I
is.
mean?
No,
Okay,
there's
so
no
we're just at
in
the
your
opinion
worldview.
stage
There is
now.
no absolutes, dude. There's no absolutes in your worldview.
All right, go ahead. Give me a different answer for what causes all the observed phenomena of the stars.
You realize you're debunking the whole global notion of how science is, and if this is even science at this point. You guys realize that, right? By saying what you're saying.
Well, see, like I could propose that its dark polarity is what makes it appear like it's a sphere, and I could, like say with certainty that it's dark polarity, and
And
when
then
you
I would
try
ask
to
you, Issa, how would you prove that? Right?
right, well, I would say like, how could you disprove it? You know what I mean? And I could die on that hill and look like an idiot,
Exactly.
like you know what I mean? And that's
But
the
that
point,
doesn't work.
right? Neither does your answer
It doesn't work
exclusively.
because
Your
it's not an
answer.
actual concept.
Right, but your answer doesn't work
Your
exclusively.
concept.
And pardon me, if the universe isn't fucking electric, right? So dark polarity makes more sense, not like more sense, because I understand why you're equating the stars with the Earth. Like I understand that makes sense, but to say it's exclusively that
It's
is the
fallacious.
offensive part, man.
Right.
That's all. And it's like literally
Okay,
like
but you guys keep saying it's fallacious, but you can't point to the fallacy. You keep saying it's affirming the consequent, but I've
Affirming
explained
the
how it's not
consequence.
affirming the consequent, and you can just wiki what affirming the consequent is. If there's only one potential cause, then it's not affirming
Okay,
the
all right.
consequent. It is literally just the only consequent, or the only cause of that consequent is X, therefore it has to be X. And currently, there's no other physical shape in
I'd like to
reality
respond to
that
this.
can match a consistent motion, like a consistent drop or look with no extreme angles that ends up with 2 polar rotational points. It just doesn't exist in mathematics and geometry.
Okay,
Yeah,
hold
it's
on.
not true. You just made that up. The Wikipedia doesn't say what you said it says. It says something different. That's all.
You want me to read the wiki to you? I'll read it
I
to
can
you
read
right
it
now.
to you.
Hold on. Before that, let's just
Okay.
grant him. Let's just grant him that that's true, right? Let's just say that's true. So if I give you an explanation like Issa put forth, and there's a 1%, 0.001% possibility that Issa's explanation is the correct one, then that means there's more than one potential explanation, which means it is affirming the consequence.
No, ESA doesn't have an explanation. That's the
You
problem.
just said
ESA
it.
just has
You
words.
just said it.
There's no
Dark polarity.
properties. There's
That
no
doesn't mean
properties
anything.
to that. There's no properties. There's no description. There's no mathematics. There's nothing except for just I have words, and these
Rambling
words
at this
could
point.
potentially be the ones that match the thing. But those words don't have any anything attached to them, so there's no reason to assume that those words could be another
No,
explanation.
it's just a placeholder, dude.
No,
Yeah,
that's
let's,
true.
we
ESA
can
doesn't
all
even
get
know.
through the consequent. We'll wrap it
Yeah,
up real quick.
yeah.
We'll wrap it up real quick, right?
Go ahead
like,
and read the
in
definition on
propositional
Wikipedia.
logic.
Yeah.
In propositional logic, affirming the consequent or fallacy of the converse is a formal fallacy that is committed in the context of an indicative conditional statement. It is stated that because the consequent is true, therefore the antecedent is true. That's all it says. And that's what affirming the consequent is. It's an error in formal logic. And that was his argument. It was, if P then Q, Q therefore P. So it was affirming the consequent. You led us on this haunted hayride conundrum fallacy, which isn't a fallacy, but I made that up. So it's absurd, man. Dogs are gods. Just get out of here with this nonsense. You're wasting everyone's time.
I'm gonna
Is
need to
it
write
not
the name
true
of
that
that
if there's
fallacy
only
down.
one possible cause for the consequent, it's not fallacious?
No,
Where do you
that's
see
not.
that?
That's called circular reasoning at that point, and you can obtain like some people will reject circular reasoning, some won't. In the case of
Okay,
this
so
argument, because
it's
this argument
determining the
is circular
consequent.
in nature, since it's about a sphere, I don't know. Some might actually accept it.
Yeah, we don't
Is
accept
it
circular
affirming
reasoning,
the
and
consequent
you
that
had
it's
this weird
flat.
qualifier to affirm the consequent. Jesse, your argument was bad. We proved it. That's fine.
Is it
Oh my
possible?
god!
Is it affirming the
We still
consequent to
don't have a
say?
way to explain the stars on a flat Earth.
Right, so now we can talk about that.
I'll
But
check it
you
out
can
pretty
see the
clear.
first
What
point that you
definitely.
failed. You failed to prove it.
Is it affirming the
All right.
consequent to say
Now,
1 plus
Trax,
1
you laid it
equals
out.
2?
You laid it
I
out
have
pretty good.
Oh
1
my
That
God,
was
plus
you're
1,
not
definitely.
changing
therefore I must
anymore.
have
We've
2.
already
All right.
went through it like 4 times. I don't need to explain to you
dogs.
again.
Is it
You can
affirming the
read about it.
consequent to say 1 plus 1
No,
equals
you're
2?
done.
I have 2.
Please,
Is
dogs. Let Jeremy get in. He's been waiting.
okay, that's
Yeah,
fine. But you guys just aren't answering or dealing with the things I've said. You're just
No, you're just trying to
consistently
stultify.
saying
You're
you're
trying
not
to
true.
keep the
So it
conversation
sucks
on
to be.
that. You were wrong. You added this weird qualifier onto a very simple thing. You can go back and look into it. But for now,
And you're
we're
just
moving on.
asserting
Jesse
something with
dropped
no
her going. Jeremy
explanation.
wants to get in. We're not gonna spend all night on you, bud. That's that.
Yeah, you're just asserting things with no explanation. I've given a full explanation. I can give examples. And you're just saying no because you're trying to be contradictory to
you have
everything and you want to
circular
slap proof with fallacy.
Can you
dude,
please?
at best you have circular reasoning though.
But hold on, Tor. Don't give him another
A
out.
tautology is a
because-
tautology. It's not circular reasoning.
No. We're not gonna give him another out. He's already explained it like 4 times. Jeremy, you wanted to say something.
Oh, there we go. We're running away.
We're not running away. We just did
Whatever.
It too
Let
much.
him
Jeremy,
believe
go ahead.
whatever he wants. It's okay. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, Trax. Anyway, but anyways, you laid it out perfectly. It's a affirming the consequent. If what Dogs is saying is true and there can be no other cause and that's it 100%, he's debunking either science proves things 100% or he's saying this isn't science. Which one of those are you debunking? I'm just curious, asking for a friend.
Neither. I'm talking about mathematics, not science. So mathematics is like a logical rule set. It's a descriptive language where there's true statements that come from the propositions that you put forward using numbers or I don't know, mathematical terms. Science is a way of coming to knowledge that can be provisional, but mathematics is true. It's deductive. It's not inductive like science is. So why don't you just go take like a philosophy 101 course and learn these basic things?
All right, no ad
before
homs.
you
Thanks,
get
bro.
them wrong.
It's
not
that's
an ad
just
hom.
blatant ad hom.
It's not an
But
ad
the
hom.
thing is, hold
Why
on,
don't you?
man.
I'm gonna mute him. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. I know.
That was a blatant ad
The
hoc.
thing is, so he picked option B. This isn't science. Then this whole thing about lights moving in the sky, none of that's science.
Yeah, I mean, we all make the same observations. We're seeing the same phenomena. Taylor said it best. We're still trying to figure out the cause. And where is the proof of said cause, which is Earth rotation or motion? Like, that's a cause that's put forward. That's a claim. How is that being proven? And we're still not past that point. And the point of asking the question is because there is no proving it. Because there's no experiment to point to, no citation to point to. It's just an assumption. Oh, the stars look like they're moving 15 degrees per hour. That must mean Earth rotation. That's affirming the consequence. It's not really a logical position to hold. We can move on.
Yes, it is logical. You have two options.
Can I
Either the
respond?
stars are moving or you're moving. And
Yeah,
what
I
would
think there's
cause
more
every
than one
star in the
side.
sky to move in a uniform pattern? What would cause that? It would be Earth moving. Completely logical assumption.
Right.
The
I
moon
think
doesn't move in that pattern.
the Einstein quote when he says there's no experiment that can be done on Earth that will tell you whether the Earth is moving or the sky is moving.
He was, I'm just curious if people are even concerned with how any of this would work on a flat Earth. Like nothing, you have no explanation.
Can I come in now? Yeah, so there are people with explanations. There are multiple explanations. Joe Hanvey has an explanation. This can be modeled out. Yeah, so the fact that you're saying that there's no counter explanations is ridiculous. Now, whether you want to refute his explanation is another thing, but to say there's no counter explanation is just
fallacious.
What would that be? What kind of fallacy would that be?
Affirming the
Yeah,
consequence.
just no, but like
Affirming the consequence.
rejecting all other evidence. There's a name for it. I'm trying to memorize them still.
Affirming the
Anyway.
consequence.
So wouldn't you be affirming the consequence, saying that Earth is flat and you didn't measure it to be flat in any way ever?
What? That's
All
not even
everyone
When
does
did
is
Earth
measure.
measure
like
to be
first of all,
flat?
do you want to switch the topic to how we prove flat Earth, or are we still talking about your
I'm talking
unexclusive
about
evidence?
affirming the consequent. You didn't
Okay,
measure
so
Earth to be flat.
what are you referencing in particular?
Everybody thinking that you can presume Earth is flat and have a celestial sphere at the same time.
Are you talking about engineering and bridge building? Or are you talking about like what are you referencing? Because they assume that.
He's kind of jumping around. It's kind of a topic
Yeah.
divert.
Yeah.
We gotta let's try to stay on something. I mean, is that what you want? You want to shift the whole thing now?
We're talking about affirming the consequent.
No, see, all right.
Ignoring alternatives, that's a fallacy.
Oh, I guess he agrees. The globe affirms the consequent with every aspect when you talk about the sky.
Because Earth is big, you have to presume things in a calculation. Okay, we found a model that works, and you didn't.
You have no model.
Well, that's very
can move
interesting.
on.
We found and you didn't. Very interesting choice of words.
We can move on to the next question.
Straight up, you don't have a model, man.
You don't
Yeah,
have a
what
model.
did you do to find that the Earth was a globe? So far, you just appeal to what other people say. You affirm the consequent. You have no exclusive proof of motion. You lost at the curvature argument. What do you even have? What do you do?
You probably couldn't
Hold on,
even find
literally
Polaris at the
let's
North
let
Pole,
Beasticles.
bro.
Guys, hold on,
said I should be
guys.
able to respond
Beasticles
to
is gonna
that.
move us. Guys, hold on, man. Beasticles is gonna move us on to the next thing. Go ahead.
And I think Galatrax put a caper in the first two questions. So let's move on to the next question. How do you have a pressurized system next to the vacuum of space?
Am I allowed to answer this stuff?
Without a container.
We're waiting.
What constitute? Okay, so now I need to investigate. Oh, am I going to be able to answer this, or is everybody going to interrupt again?
Go ahead. Stop being meta. Just go ahead.
Okay, so I want to know what you think constitutes a vacuum.
How about 10 to the negative 6 torr?
What if the change in pressure is gradual as you gain altitude? Does that mean that the differential in the gradient is going to cause sucking pressure?
Okay, how do you have a pressure gradient without a container?
Gravity. Are you saying there's no such thing as gravity?
Just back to gravity. So, okay, how did you prove that gravity is the cause for the pressurized gradient?
Are you saying there's no such thing as gravity? Answer my question.
That's not what I asked. Hold on.
I asked you first, beasticles.
Dude, I asked you, how do you have a pressure gradient without a container next to the vacuum of space? Your answer was gravity. Okay, how did you prove that gravity was the cause of that pressurized gradient?
Because there is no evidence of a container. If you want to not do the, what do they call it?
Well, the real reason is that gas is mass, mass has weight, and it is held to the earth the same way the oceans are, the same way you are.
So your
You
cause
can't even
for
define math. It's least
Yeah.
effective at the surface, though, because all the gas goes up, and then as it starts to go up further, it starts to go back down. Like, dude, it's way
What's
least
funny
effective.
what's funny
That's
is
a
that he
pumpkin
says
patch
that we
provocation
have no
fallacy.
evidence for a container, but yet when we ask him how did he prove that there is a gravity, he goes with, "Oh yeah, I have
What's
no."
funny is
The burden of proof
what's
is
funny
on the
is the only
claim.
explanation.
Okay, so we have the pressure gradient.
Where's the gravity, man?
We
Hold
have
on,
the
guys. Hold on. One at a time. Who's going next?
That
we
was
have
me.
the pressure
It
gradient.
was me because it was me because he was saying gravity. Can you prove gravity for us?
Hold on, El, but let's let Shoe Bill go in because he hasn't spoke yet.
It's gonna go
We
from
have
somewhere else.
The pressure gradient has been measured demonstrably, weather balloons, high altitude airplanes, all that good shit. So the pressure is going lower and lower and lower, down to 10 to the minus 6, before you get to the container. So if you got to the container, it's at this 10 to minus 6, and on the other side of the container is going to be 10 to the minus 6. What is the container doing?
Hold on.
I want to jump in here.
That's not the question. The question
Not
was,
even close.
how do you have a pressure gradient without a container? That was the question.
Yeah, the accumulated weight of the column of air. Yes.
The
So
accumulated
there's no
weight of the column of air. So there
We
is
have a
no
column on
proof.
sphere. There's no barrier.
So can you have? Hold on. So can you have accumulated weight without a container? In other words, if I have water and I accumulate water on top of it, how could it be there without it being contained?
Because the entire sphere of Earth has this layer of air atmosphere. So
That's what we were
it's
discussing.
It's not
the
not
atmosphere.
like not like you have a standing water tank of air. No, it's all around, just like the ocean.
Yeah, it's just like the oceans has a gradient pressure due to the amount of water that it's the depth. Same thing with the air above. We have a depth, we have a height, which causes a gradient. But in order to have that height of a gas, we need a containment. Without the containment, gases disperse.
Yeah, like how do you even have point? Yeah,
Can I
how
just
do you?
jump in, please? Just I got
No, hold
30
on one
seconds
second.
of
I
stuff
just want
to
to say,
okay?
how do you even have 0.000000001 psi? Like whatever it is, how do you even have the littlest amount of pressure without a container? I don't care if it goes out to 10 to whatever. How do you have a pressure container in the first place? How do you have any pressure?
I just so my 30-second thing is for the container. The argument for that is a true affirming the consequent fallacy because the other potential cause for there being gas pressure without a container is a force or something acting like force applied to all particles in the atmosphere. So because there's these two potential causes, we need to figure out which one is the likely cause. And the likely cause is the one that would create a gradient, which is a force that is inversely proportional to the distance from wherever that force it comes from, which would be the Earth itself. So you have this inversely proportional force that seems to fit the explanation better than the affirming the consequent container. So why would we not claim gravity is the
Hold on.
cause?
So
No,
now
you're
gravity is a
assuming in the
force.
converse example that there's no container as well. So they're
That's not.
proposing that in your example, there's no container. What holds it in? You're saying, oh, well, there's no container and something holds it in, so it must be our thing. If anything, your example is also affirming the consequent. This is absurd, man.
It is. Nope, that's not what
Essentially,
I said.
he's looking at it like a cup.
Though.
So there's a cup with a lid, and there's a
That's
cup without a lid.
not
So
what
he's accepting the cup without the lid.
Dogs, you're
you just-
roboting a bit.
So
You just straw man.
he's accepting the cup without the lid. So the cup is the container.
You're straw manning me. I'm saying that we have two potential causes.
Oh, hold on, Dogs.
So
Can
I
you
said you have two.
Can you reconnect, bro?
Can I get in after dogs?
Yeah. 1 second, Demok.
I
Dogs,
think
you're roboting a bit.
I think Taylor
Everything
wanted
I
to get
try to
before
say
that.
gets hijacked, dude.
I think
The
Taylor
burden
wanted
of proof is on the one claiming that there are walls.
Hold on, we got a
containing
list
pressure.
going. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on, Jesse.
I'll just let me finish my sentence. instead of trying to take
No.
over.
You didn't ask. Okay.
Yeah, we got
Demok,
dogs and Denmark, and then
Yeah. So
No, we had Taylor in there before that. Before Dogs or
Yeah,
Demo.
so Taylor was before that, then
then
Dogs, and then Demok, but Dogs
Okay.
is roboting.
Put
So
me on the
Taylor
list.
can go.
And then Jeremy. And then Jeremy. I
And
got
then
you.
Rob.
I gotta go after Democ, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
I was
Yeah,
just
can
gonna.
you guys hear me now?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you're playing cleanup.
Yeah, cool. So I didn't say that I was assuming to force.
Sorry,
Sorry,
Dogs.
Dogs.
again, brother.
You're roboting again, bro.
You're
Sorry.
roboting. Yeah.
Sorry, Dogs. It's getting robotic again,
Then we'll
brother.
go Taylor, then Democ, then Jeremy. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I was just saying like that they're invoking gravity, but the thing is, we don't even understand gravity at the atomic level. Like, what is gravity? You know, it's just kind of like this arbitrary force. But what about like how it works? They're still trying to find this like gravitational particle, the Higgs boson, and stuff like that. But they admit that we do not understand how gravity even works on atomic level. So it's just like this arbitrary force. That's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, it's super arbitrary, and it doesn't depend on proportion to mass or any of that. That's the funniest stuff I've ever heard. Actually, temperature can negate the idea of pressure in a container or out of a container. Temperature can go within or without a container and enter it or exit it and cause different pressures in a container or out of a container. So outside, temperature can cause pressure or containment. Temperature is it. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah. The gas pressure gradient without a container argument, it's not affirming the consequent. What it is Karl Popper's white swan argument, where somebody says all swans are white. We're saying all gas pressure gradients need containment. All gas pressure gradient systems need containment. And you guys are saying, no, it doesn't. There's this other thing out here. There's a black swan out here, which would be, in your instance, gas pressure gradient system without a container. And it's just Karl Popper's black swan.
Yo, my, how the tables have turned.
All you gotta do is come with a black swan. We're out. We're good. You got us.
I'm down to see it if it's possible.
I was next. And that black swan they've already claimed as the Earth itself, the thing we're trying to prove, which is therefore affirming the consequent.
Oh, Rob, yeah, right. And here's the issue: is that like if you don't start with the whole "it's a globe, so therefore this makes sense because it's a globe, so therefore this makes sense," like you don't have an argument. But if you say like, look, like these arguments have falsification factors. The arguments that Jesse put forward has no falsification. He admitted to that. So if you have an argument that has no falsification factor, what you're doing is you're saying your argument's unfalsifiable. You have true perfect knowledge. You're omniscient. And there's nothing that you're infallible, so there's nothing to argue against.
Okay, so listen close. Hold on, dude. Listen close. The burden of proof is on you to say that the cause for gas pressure in the atmosphere is due to a container. Then you can verify that claim by showing me the container. If you can't do that, then I can give other causes, which would be gravity, which actually makes way more sense. And dude.
Then show gravity on a scale.
99%
We can
of the
understand.
world already thinks this.
It doesn't matter.
Listen to this guy.
All right, so
the burden of proof is on you.
No, it's not, Jesse. It's on you. You're the one. Okay, so generally, pressure, gas pressure, air pressure requires a container. You would agree to this. Generally, it does. In this special occasion.
No, dude, I just laid it out. It's Karl Popper's black swan argument, dude.
Okay, dogs are gods. Can you lay out how hang on,
man,
you interrupted me. Dogs are gods. Can you explain how generally gas pressure requires a container is affirming the consequent? That's just an abductive statement. How is that affirming the consequent, dogs?
Yeah, so generally doesn't matter at all in any way. It's affirming the consequent to say if generally something happens, therefore it must be true in this other case. Is affirming the consequent.
Okay, so wait. You assumed what my next hang on. You assumed what my next statement was gonna be. You heard me say generally this is the case. You assumed what my next statement was gonna be, so you could interrupt me and say, "Oh, affirming the consequent." While you bitch the whole time about people interrupting you.
Hold on,
Dude,
all right, let's skip all that.
Enough.
Just skip all that.
Yeah,
Hold
but
on, man. Let me just get
wrong.
this out real quick. Hold on, man. Hold on.
I
This
wanted-
isn't
I just-
affirming the consequent. This is Karl Popper's black swan. I just laid it out. The burden of proof isn't on us. We got gas pressure and containers all day. You guys don't have any black swans. The burden of proof is on someone saying, no, not all swans are white, and then you come with a black swan. It's not affirming the consequent, and the burden of proof is not on us.
Jeremy, let
And,
me
and gather
reset
tracks.
the.
Hold on, I was trying to get that. I was trying
Oh,
to
go
get
ahead.
to gather tracks. You can't say generally at all times. Gas pressure requires a container.
So
And like at least for the stars, we had Joe Hanvey's model like to demonstrate it. But can y'all demonstrate
doesn't work.
gravity causing pressure gradients on a small scale?
Let's not move subjects, please, real quick.
I'm just saying it's not comparable.
Well, hold on. I just want to reset the room and see if the people who are on the defensive, Jesse and Dogs Are Gods, were paying attention to what the argument was and what the question was. Jesse, could you repeat what the question was that I asked?
Oh my god, your policing is cringy, dude.
So you can't do it. Okay, Dogs, could you repeat the
Agent
question that was
Patrol.
originally asked?
Would you agree that generally we see gas pressure with a container? No, we don't. And it doesn't follow that if generally we do see something, then the
That
end
wasn't the
result would
question.
be that any seeing of the
That's
thing
not
would
it.
mean that it would have to be the cause of that consequent. That would be affirming the consequent.
So okay,
Yeah, these
that
two are
wasn't
just trolling you.
Can
They're
I-
just trolling
can
you,
I
man.
re-
They don't want to
can I
answer any
repeat the
questions in good
question?
faith.
Yeah, go
They
ahead,
just
Rob.
want to prevaricate. They want to waste time. They want to
No,
obfuscate. They're not going to
your
answer anything.
question was that you do we generally see gas pressure
wasn't my
happening with a
question.
container?
No, that
That was not my question.
Now
Go ahead,
That was the
Rob.
last question that was asked to the room.
pressure
He got
gradient.
muted again. Hold on, Rob. Hold on. He has to get muted because he can't hold himself. Rob, go
How
ahead
do
and
you-
repeat what the question was.
How do you have a gas pressure gradient without a container?
Thank you. That was the question, and that still
Gravity.
hasn't been answered. Gravity. Okay, your answer is gravity. How did you prove that gravity could cause a pressure gradient without a container?
Downward force puts all the heavier gas at the bottom.
Downward force puts all the heavier gas in the bottom. How did you prove this downward force is the cause of a pressure
That's
gradient?
density.
Bottom
Okay,
of
you
what?
hit me with so many random lines of questions. Let me ask you something,
It's not random.
beasticles.
It's
Listen, dude.
literally a
Hold
line
on,
of
hold on.
questioning.
Let me ask you something. Is the container hermetically sealed?
My God.
No one is talking about
No,
a
no, no.
container.
He made a claim, dude. You made a claim, dude.
You
Yeah.
don't want to answer that. Okay.
You made
Is the
a claim.
atmosphere actually hermetically sealed, meaning there's no openings, where it is an actual
You
closed system?
Made a claim, bro.
I don't know. And
You
that's
don't
not
know.
what we're talking about.
I wonder why. Because you don't have any evidence of the container
Yes,
to know if it's actually
This guy
entirely
wants to
closed
be
and a
disingenuous.
hermetically sealed container.
This guy
Don't
doesn't
interrupt
wanna,
me. Okay,
this guy
you need
doesn't
to
want
be
to have an
moderated.
actual, honest, good faith conversation. It was a simple question. How can you have a gas pressure gradient without a container? It's a very simple question, and I heard gravity as the answer. And then my next question, which is not a random question, it was a very pertinent question. How did you prove that gravity was the cause of said pressure gradient? Is there
Gravity
any
makes things go
experiment?
down.
Is
Did
there
you
any
forget that things
experiment you
fall
can?
towards the earth? You forgot.
Okay, we're not talking about the rate of fall or how things fall towards the earth. We're talking about how do you have a pressure gradient without a container? You said gravity, therefore you have to prove that.
We
How
are
did
talking
you
about
prove
things
that?
falling.
Okay, I'm just gonna make more baseless claims, more baseless assertions. Jesse, if you don't want to answer honestly, just say that. At least that's got more like we'd respect you
You
more.
didn't confirm a container at all. You're invoking a container to be the cause for the pressure gradient.
one's talking.
And I
Hey,
asked
No,
you if the container is
no, he didn't
hermetically
actually.
sealed.
He asked, "How
Because
do you
typically
do it
when you
without a
seal it, listen
container?"
close.
And hang on, you're just
I'm being
lying, man.
interrupted
He's-
again.
Yeah, he asked you how you do it without a container, and you said like this, and then he said, "How do you prove that?" AK, what evidence do you have? AK, what reason do you have to believe that? And you said, "Oh, gravity pulls things down." That's just a baseless assertion. That's not your reason for believing it.
Gravity pulls things down as a baseless assertion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And saying
It's
that
a
you're
baseless
saying
assertion in the
that.
context of that question. Yeah.
But
Isn't it just
Okay, let me ask you
one
something.
second,
dude.
Gally.
Yo, did I hear
You're just
Democ wanting
trolling.
to
You're
get in?
just a troll,
Hold
We're
on,
bro.
not
wait.
allowing this to happen.
No, that wasn't
I can
Denmark.
tell you're scared. I can tell.
No,
I do,
let's
but
Okay,
yeah.
so if
thought I
your
heard
container
Democ
is
wanting to get in.
hermetically sealed,
Okay, dude, Jesse, you need to stop, dude. It's too much. All right,
You're
so
just trolling, man.
Denmark wanted to get in, and Jesse Path of Light wanted to get in. I think that's who spoke up. Am I correct in that, Jesse? Okay.
Yes.
Now, before we get there, I just want to repeat the question. We don't even have to be talking about the Atmos. all right, or anything of that nature. It's a question that has nothing to do with anything but where is the pressure gradient coming from without a container? How do we have a pressure gradient? How can someone show that pressure gradient without it being contained? That's really the basis of the question. We don't even have to be talking about Earth. So go ahead, Demok. You wanted to get in, Demok?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, all he has to do is go somewhere and show, where that same container experiment where you have the gas in the low, the clear Pyrex, and then the clear Pyrex above it's empty, and then you turn the thing, and then from the bottom when it goes up to the top, all he has to do is sit it down in a hole and prove that gravity holds that gas down in the thing when he releases. Right? That's all you got to do. Go ahead.
And then Jesse. Path of light.
Does the ocean have a pressure gradient?
Yes. Sure.
And what causes that pressure gradient, since there's nothing on top creating thousands of psi at great depths?
The depth. You just answered it.
The
depth
water that's
creates
on
it.
top of it.
Okay, so air is also a fluid, and air also has weight. So why would the weight of air also not create a pressure gradient?
Weight to where? You have to prove where its weight is going versus not going up and away. You have to prove where the weight is going to via the center of whatever. You have to prove that with some gas. So just saying water being held by dirt's not helping you because it's contained by dirt. That's good to go. It's got depth in the dirt. So you have to prove, like I said, air that you release stays right where you release it to, and it doesn't go away from gravity. It stays there, Jesse and Jesse. Both Jessies demonstrate in an air pocket hole somewhere on Earth and nature where you remove the lid and gravity's holding it right down there to keep its gradient down there. And then you'll make some sense.
Well, if air has weight, and I just posted a video where I literally weighed a pot of air, if air has weight, then why would it not create a pressure gradient?
Did you weigh it with the container or by itself? Please weigh the air by itself, only using gravity to help you weigh it. Only gravity as your force.
You can't use different states of matter either. I mean, we're talking about air being contained, but the thing is, water is a different state of matter, and then it becomes air, right? So, I mean, you're asking how that's contained. That's not necessarily how it works. You're talking about the gradient within the Earth itself, and they're not homogeneous.
But they both are fluids, is that right?
No, they're not the same thing at all. Stop doing that. Air, you cannot demonstrate. Hold on one second, please. He cannot demonstrate air down in a hole. You put a rock over it and cover it. It's sealed, right? And then the air's in there. It's being sealed by the rock. That's the force right now, an actual physical thing. Move the rock. Jesse and Jesse have to show us where gravity's holding it down there and not that rock. Do you understand, Jesse, or not? Is this too complex?
That might have been too complex, but the point is, air does have weight. It is a fluid, so why would that not create a pressure gradient?
Why do we got a rock has to hold it down? Why does the physical thing have to hold it and not gravity, like you claim?
Why would that not an appeal to possibility? Or am I tripping?
Well, you are tripping, my friend, because it's very strongly demonstrated that any fluid with a weight creates a pressure gradient.
Okay, how is that pressure gradient demonstrated? Is it with a container? On a small scale, do you have a pressure gradient by having gas pressure within a container? Because gas pressure is the force of the particles moving against the wall, pressing upon the wall. Right? You have a tighter space, you have more pressure, right? You have smaller volume and a higher temperature, you have more pressure, right? Gas law.
So if you take your cell phone and bring up the app to show the barometric pressure sensor, it can actually show you the difference in temperature and the difference in pressure and the gradient of that pressure from the floor to the ceiling in your house. You can literally put it down near the floor, put it up near the ceiling, and watch the numbers change. So
you dodged this question.
And you can also do it outside. So there's no doubt.
Yeah, but how do you have any pressure at all?
Goodness, I'm almost done. There's no doubt that air does have a pressure gradient.
Yeah, we all can see a pressure gradient. How is there a pressure gradient without containment? Because every example of pressure that we can demonstrate, has to be contained in order to have that pressure.
Even like the ocean?
That's two different states of matter.
How's that significant?
It's not equivalent.
They are both, is it true? Let's get this
Because
straight. Are they both fluids?
I think that fluids and gases are different states of matter.
Look it up.
Yeah, but Jesse, no one is questioning the pressure gradient. Okay? We're questioning the cause. You guys have a burden of proof. Gravity being the cause of the pressure gradient without a container. You're saying the container is gravity itself. How has that been proven? How has that been demonstrated in a lab?
It's also an association fallacy.
If it was a physical container, would we get the pressure gradients that we observe in our atmosphere, which is almost zero pressure as you go higher and higher? Doesn't the gas like expand out and like get contained within the container? So why is there next to nothing as you go up? That's
the argument is, why is there gas pressure at all?
Yeah, like the only way to demonstrate gas pressure is to contain the gas, creating pressure. Period.
But yeah,
very
but
simple.
nature's way of containment isn't flat Earth's form of containment, which is contained by a dome. Nature's containment works differently.
No one pointed to a dome. Hold on. No one pointed to a dome. No one said anything about a dome being the container. I'm asking a simple question, and the burden of proof is on whoever says that gravity is the cause of the pressure gradient. Now, my next question to that, whoever thinks that that's the answer, is how do you prove that gravity is the cause of the pressure gradient? And I have yet to see an experiment, example, citation, or anything like that. So we're still on the same question. I'm just going to keep repeating it.
So,
well,
I wasn't saying, I didn't mention gravity. I said weight. I said air has weight. We may disagree on.
That's true. You didn't say gravity. That was the other Jesse. What's your answer to my question then?
Yeah, we may disagree on what causes weight, but we should be able to agree that A, air has weight, and B, anything with weight that's a fluid will create a pressure gradient, because the more you stack up, it's the combined, at any given point, it's the combined weight pressure of everything above it. And the higher you go, the less there is above it, and the less pressure, right?
So there is a pressure gradient. Okay, and I'm going to repeat the question again. How is there a pressure gradient without containment? Because every example has had a container to have pressure in the first place.
Well, that's begging the question, because I can measure a pressure gradient outside of my house where there's no container unless you assume one, but you can't assume that there's must be a container because there's a pressure gradient, and by assuming that containers are required for pressure gradients. We do agree that there is a pressure gradient outside my house, right?
Yeah, everyone agrees that there's pressure, a contained system, the air we breathe.
Well, what about a gradient outside? Are you aware that the atmospheric pressure reduces to 99.5% of a pure vacuum at about 114,000 feet?
Okay, that's still a pressure gradient. Just like how you have denser gas at the bottom of a tank, like let's say butane or propane, right? You have liquid on the bottom, right? It's being contained. But when you release it, it turns into an air, turns into a gas. But there's a pressure gradient where it's liquid on the bottom of the container. Hey, you know what else has liquid on the bottom of its container? Earth. You see the similarities there?
I posted some examples of nature's pressure gradients spherically, from a cell to roots to fruit to nuts
Yeah, all those have
seems to
physical
have this.
containment. Literally, all of those have a physical containment. With the cell, it's a membrane. With the fruit, it's the skin of the fruit. Yeah, it's all being contained. I agree.
Yeah, so that's how concave Earth has it. So
Okay. So in Jesse's paradigm, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, Jesse, Path of Light. I'm going to ask the question again because it was the other Jesse I asked it to. How do you have a pressure gradient without containment?
All right, let me explain it. I thought I answered it, but maybe my answer was too short, so I'll give a little more in-depth with an illustration. Let's say you have a large sack of air that contains 1 pound of air. You set it on the ground. It's going to be pushing down on the ground 1 pound, right? And I'm not done. I just need to make sure we're on the same page before I
Okay,
move
can I ask a
forward.
clarifying question? You said
Certainly.
a pound of air. How are you containing this pound of air?
It's just in a large, weightless sack.
Cool.
An ideal sack. Okay, now I set another pound of air on top of it. It's pressing down 1 pound on the pound under it. Now there's 2 pounds pressing down on the earth, right?
Okay.
Okay. Now I set a third pound, another big sack with another pound on top. Now it's pressing 1 pound down on the one under it. So now there's 2 pounds pressing on the sack under that, and there's a total of 3 pounds pressing down on the earth, right?
Okay. Can I fast forward to so what you're saying is that the air is the cause for a pressure gradient itself?
The weight of the air is the cause of the gradient, the pressure gradient. That is what I'm saying.
Okay. So the weight of air is the cause of a pressure gradient.
Yes.
Okay. Can that be shown without a container in any small scale experiment? Like you just said, the one with the bags of air, right? The air bag is containing that air. So that's a container. So it's not analogous.
Absolutely. You can flood any surface with a pound of air, and it will be pushing down a pound on that surface. You put another pound on top, and it will be pushing down 2 pounds.
So you have to contain that air in the first place, correct?
Well, it depends. If you want to use a surface smaller than the surface of the Earth, then you need walls, but you don't need a top. Because the air has weight, right? Are we in agreement that air has weight? Are you aware that a scuba tank is like 6 pounds heavier when it's filled?
How do you know that it's 6 pounds of weight? Is it because it's contained in a tank? So again, the question still remains, how do you have a pressure gradient without a container? Now, you can just say you can't have a pressure gradient without a container, and we can move on.
Well, what if the whole world had no land, it was just an ocean of equal depth? Would that ocean have a pressure gradient?
Hold on, I'm confused about could you repeat that question?
If the whole world had no land, it was just an ocean, one big ocean of equal depth, would that ocean have a pressure gradient? Would it be greater pressure as you went deeper?
I mean, if we're playing what ifs, sure. Let's say sure.
Okay. And why then a lighter fluid, like gas, if it covered the whole Earth, would it not have a pressure gradient?
So you have a giant water ball surrounded by air that dissipates as it goes away from your water ball, right?
Do you see
right?
what I'm saying? If
I'm trying to understand the picture that you've drawn for everyone. You have a giant water ball because it's all equal on your sphere, right? A giant water ball. But the air at the surface of the water ball dissipates and becomes less and less. Right? This is your analogy, Jesse, Path of Light?
The pressure becomes less and less because the weight of the fluid above each point as you get higher becomes less and less.
The air.
All right, cool. That's great. We observe a pressure gradient. Everyone does. That's why we have layers of atmos. It's not idealized, right? Because the atmos is dynamic. But there's a pressure gradient. And every example of having pressure is basically having a container to measure that pressure.
Well, what about when I step outside my house and I measure a pressure gradient? What about when Flat Earther Dwayne Kellum sends up a helium balloon or a hydrogen balloon to 113,000 feet and measures a 99.5% of the vacuum of space?
You're presupposing it's not contained right then.
Yeah,
well,
like
that
still doesn't prove that it's not being contained.
Well, what's being contained? I mean, it's a 99.5% vacuum of space at 113,000 feet or whatever. So did his balloon somehow break through the containment? What is holding that? What is holding that 99.5% of the pressure down at sea level? Why?
Good question.
What keeps the air from just rushing up there if it's not its own weight?
Well, that's a great question, Jesse. Do you have an answer to that question?
Its own weight.
So
we acknowledge gradients on Earth, Jesse.
Yes, we want to determine the properties of this container. Does it have a lid or does it not have a lid?
It doesn't. It wouldn't even need a lid.
Okay,
Why
you
not?
have to prove that. Because every example has a lid, but real quick, hold on. Demok, did you want to get in? I don't know if Tora said you might have spoke up. No. All right. Carry on. Go ahead, Jesse.
Well, not every example of a gradient is known to have a container.
Can you please
At
provide
rest?
that?
The
At
atmosphere.
rest? Yes. That's a gas, please.
So the Atmos is what's in question now. So the only example you can point to is the thing that's in question itself. Is that not affirming the consequent?
Say that again?
No. That's begging the question, actually, not affirming the consequent. It's fallacious either way. The thing's in question is the Atmos. There's a pressure gradient. It's observable, measurable. Everyone can see that. The only other way we can have a pressure gradient to measure for ourselves is to make sure it's contained. Just like your example of having a bag of air way on top of itself, the bag is the container to induce that experiment, basically, to start that experiment.
Well,
so there is no other experiment except for the thing in question itself, which is why I'm not a glober. There you go.
But you agreed that if the Earth had no landmass, it was just all even depth one ocean, that would have a pressure gradient with no top to the...
Yeah, so what?
That's not a gas.
But what are the exact differences between a gas and a liquid? They're both fluids. They both have different amounts of compressibility. They both have weight. They freely flow. What is the difference? Why would a heavier fluid form a gradient, but a lighter but still not weightless fluid, why would it not form a gradient? Without a top to the container, or without a top to the floor, whatever.
Well, temperature is a factor.
But wait. You're in your paradigm, you don't have a top, right? You say that there is no container. You think that we went to the moon. You have to prove that you can have a pressure gradient without a container in the first place.
Okay, let's say I take my... what constitutes a container? Is my house a container? Or is this one of those fallacies where you've decreed that there is a dome, and so there is a container, so therefore you consider it impossible for me to even test for a gradient without a container? How would I possibly test for a gradient without a container?
You don't know by now?
Could I do it in my fish tank? Could I do it in an open-topped barrel?
Yeah. Show a pressure gradient without it being contained on a smaller scale to prove your point.
Okay.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Non-liquid or non.
Could
Water. It has to be
Can't be the thing in question that we're testing, right? We can't use the Earth as evidence whenever we're trying to figure out how the Earth is being contained.
So we're not allowed to do this experiment on Earth because we don't know if it's got a dome and therefore is a container, right?
You know,
No, like in
keep saying
experiments, you're
dome.
going to model things out. You're going to model out things on a small scale. So model out the levels of the atmospheric pressure in like a 5 by 5 foot, for example, just throwing out numbers. And yeah, model out what's happening on the Earth with the differential pressure levels with no container. But the only example you have can't be the example itself in question. It's like circular reasoning.
Yeah, if it's not if you can't replicate it, then it's pseudoscience.
Yep.
Like think of the hospital. The hospital is going to be buying contained volumes of gas every day. They're not going to be going to the manufacturer saying, "Oh, I want to see this non-container."
I mean, it's the reason why it's a very pertinent point and why it's the third one and why Miggy's 3 points, right, are extremely good to illustrate the burden of proof for the globe, and you guys have no evidence for it. Like, there's no measurable curvature, there's no rotation or motion, and there's no proof of a pressure gradient without it being contained. And all three of those are in your paradigm.
So is there any possible way that you would accept for me to measure measure for gradient without a container?
I just gave you an example.
Show an experiment that shows it. Now, you may not say gravity, you may dance around it. You say the weight. Like, well, okay, well, if we want to jump to weight being the cause, what causes weight?
That's an entirely different discussion. And
if
it's
you say
irrelevant
gravity,
because-
I know your answer is going to be gravity, but you just don't want to say it because you know you can't prove it.
Well, it's irrelevant. I recognize that we don't agree on that, but we can both agree that air has weight and air is a fluid. So
Listen, for me to agree that air has weight, I would have to be able to weigh it. The only way to be able to weigh it is to contain it.
Did you see that video I put of measuring the weight of a pot with and without air in it? I pumped all the air out to see what the pot's empty weight was, and then I let the air in, and then I weighed the pot, and I weighed the weight of the air that filled that pot. And there was no pressure or vacuum in the pot when I weighed the air. It was free to come or go, so you really can't say it was contained.
Do you have a video to this?
Yep. I posted it once, I'll post it again. If I can figure out how to tag you. There we go. Coffee almost got your tag. There you go.
Measuring the buoyancy of a vacuum, weighing air. Okay.
Yep.
So you're saying I can't necessarily say that you are containing this air inside of this pot?
Right. And during the time that I'm weighing the air, the valve is open and the air is free to come and go, so it's not contained. It just happens to be inside the pot, but it's free to come and go because the valve is open.
So then you're using the thing in question, which is exactly what we said you can't do.
Well, is it really contained if the valve is open and it's free to come or go? Is that really contained?
You're using the thing in question. It's a
My question
reification.
stands.
You exchanged one container for the atmosphere of the Earth.
If you always assume the atmosphere is under a dome, can any experiment done on Earth be claimed to not be a container if the whole atmosphere you believe is inside a container?
Did anyone say dome? That's the third glober that has said dome, and no one has mentioned it.
Whatever container, if you assume that the atmosphere is always inside some sort of container, can any experiment done on the surface of Earth be claimed to not be done within a container?
No.
So you say it's impossible, no matter what we
You know
do.
what? I'll re-specify my answer. It's not no, but I
You can
haven't
make a
seen
vacuum
any
chamber.
evidence. I haven't seen any evidence to show a pressure gradient without it being contained. Right? The gas has to be contained to have a pressure gradient. We all see it. Everyone gets tanks of gas. All right. Everyone gets propane. Everyone gets seen an oxygen tank or a helium tank. It's contained, and there is a pressure gradient inside of it with the denser of the gas going to the bottom, right? Because of the compressibility, as Jesse was saying, right? It's being compressed, contained. Like, and there's no other example that you
Like
can
what?
point to without a container, but we just have to believe that the globe somehow just defies the laws of physics. We're flying through space at an incredible speed with no container, right? Like, we're in this pressurized system next to the vacuum of space, flying around the sun, and you expect us to believe all of that without actually proving that. It's ridiculous. That's where
Yeah.
I'm at.
Like would an open top bucket count as a container?
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Can I take my phone barometer and move it up and down inside a 50-gallon open-top drum and show that there is a gradient inside an open-top
Yeah,
50-gallon drum?
again, that's the thing that is in
I
question.
have a proposition.
Go ahead, Taylor.
So we would need a container in order to simulate this. However, you can make a vacuum chamber, and then you can model out how the Earth is working and the pressure and density gradients in that vacuum chamber.
You
'Cause
still
that's
wouldn't be able to
theoretically
deal with
what's
the
happening.
spherical nature of the Earth
Because
doing that in a vacuum
hold on,
chamber.
wait. I know, but I'm just saying, like, the edge of the Earth, like, this wouldn't apply to the container thing, because y'all would say the edge of the Earth is space in a vacuum. So you can just model out that containment become between a vacuum and a non-vacuum. That's what you'd have to demonstrate.
Well, in a vacuum chamber, if you add any sort of gas, the pressure's going to basically equalize.
Right.
What happens to anything, including a liquid, right? Like, so, for example, we're here on Earth, we have oceans, okay? And you expect us to believe that these massive oceans are next to the vacuum of space and it not boiling.
Well, no, because the oceans are under like 14 psi.
So you need
So
to
we're being contained.
recreate that happening in your vacuum chamber. So this would be perfect, because we're saying, you know, how is there a vacuum chamber between space and you have air? So you just need to demonstrate air being differentiated and separated from a vacuum without a container. That's all you need to do.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like if you do this in the open atmosphere, if
No,
you
this
do
is going to
some
be, yeah, go ahead.
so if you do an experiment in the open atmosphere, then that doesn't count because you already assume that the atmosphere is inside some sort of container. But then if you do it in a vacuum chamber, then the walls of the vacuum chamber are the container,
No,
and it's a lose-lose.
Hold on, wait.
Okay, no. Let me show you. Okay, so the thing is, what we're trying to figure out: can there be a vacuum next to a non-vacuum without a container? That's what's in question here. But the fact that the vacuum chamber itself has a container doesn't matter. It's like saying space has a container. Either way, we still have to identify and figure out how we can have a vacuum next to a non-vacuum. So that's really what's in question. Okay, so in this case, the containment part wouldn't even apply to what we're trying to figure out here.
Well, would it be a vacuum next to a non-vacuum? The globe does not claim that, and physics doesn't claim that that's what's happening. And what's measured
There has to be at some point.
What's measured is that at 113,000 feet, the pressure is 99.5% of the vacuum of space, and decreasing with more elevation. So
yeah. So this is the funny part.
But
So
real
just
quick,
take.
Taylor, real quick. So Jesse, you're saying right next. So at some point, there has to be a differentiator between our atmos and the vacuum of space, right? You agree in your paradigm there is a vacuum of space?
He said no.
There's a vacuum of space, but the globe model does not claim any differentiator. It does not, other than for practical purposes, like depending on particular activities. You know, they might say, oh, space starts at 75 miles or 100, whatever. They're not claiming that there's a sudden change in air pressure. It's just a point, you know, beyond
Yeah.
which
What's your
satellites
definition
mostly
of a
work
vacuum?
without too much interference from the air. But the pressure, the official claim is that the pressure just reduces and reduces and reduces as a gradient all the way to a few hydrogen molecules per cubic centimeter.
can show that. I have
Yeah,
a
I mean
funny
that,
proposition.
that's
I
the
was
claim
going to
again.
say this.
Is the vacuum.
Go ahead, Taylor.
I was just trying to say, like, we have a solution to how you can model this, the vacuum next to a non-vacuum. You can just take some of your gravity and throw it in there. Right? It's kind of a
Well,
joke.
this
We
is
don't
what I
even know
was
what
saying
gravity
before.
is. So
Actually,
it's hilarious.
I had said before, let's put a big lead ball at the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket. I will fart in the bucket, and you will stick your face at the top of the bucket. And if your gravity works, my fart will stay at the bottom.
That stuff's lighter than air. It's methane.
So if
But
I'm just saying, if you trust your gravity situation, you got nothing to worry about.
There's some gravity in
But,
there.
but shouldn't it be scalable, right? You guys all talk about models and how you can, you have the best model. You should be able to model this on a smaller scale. Use a golf ball. Represent that as the earth, okay? Have water get attached to it, right, to represent the oceans. And then have that be inside of a vacuum, and you can demonstrate how that is basically not going into that vacuum and dispersing, having equilibrium. There's no way, because it's a
Not
crazy ass
Throw
claim.
some of the
not
gravity in there.
everything is scalable though.
So you have an unfalsifiable claim then.
Well, we have a measurable claim. We can
Well,
measure.
we don't dispute the measurements either. We don't dispute there's a gradient.
Yeah,
what
everyone
isn't
knows there's a
scalable?
gradient.
So
What is not scalable?
I saw a video where these guys put this gas in an open top fish tank.
Yeah,
And
sulfur
then
hexafluoride. We all know
yeah,
about that one.
and then they could float a tinfoil boat on that. Since
Okay.
it's open top, since it has just walls, but gas is free to flow in and out, would that count as not having a container if it's
No.
That's like
just walls?
put water on the ground. You know,
It's not
density.
analogous because you don't have a layer of sulfur hexafluoride chilling on the top of the atmos, so it's not analogous.
Okay.
It's still
Hold on.
it's still
Density
higher.
experiment.
I have
It's
the
still
answer for you,
higher.
Seafoam. Yeah, you've already said your point. I have the answer for
Would
you.
there be
So, sulfur hexafluoride. Hold on, bro. Sulfur hexafluoride is a somewhat non-reactive gas. What you have is a bunch of reactive materials open at every part of the containment. Okay, in your model, there is no containment; it's open. Okay, so you have all these reactive components, and by your definition, which I didn't get from Jesse when I asked, a vacuum is when there is less pressure right next to more pressure. At every point on your model, there is less pressure going up. Therefore, with reactive gases and less pressure, you would have this siphon. We would be sucked dry, everything would be bone dry over
And
time.
boiling.
Now, if you say that's not the case, I say, well, show it. Otherwise, I mean, anybody who knows, if you leave something out, it's going to dry up, crack, and just go bad.
Dude,
right?
I'm reading
If it's
the
reactive.
All right, like what if you had, like hypothetically, what if you had like a really really tall tube, like an elevator shaft on a really tall building, right? If you let go of a balloon at the bottom, at some point, the balloon is gonna stop being buoyant and the balloon is gonna stop flying upward, right? If that really tall tube without a top, would that count as without a container? If you're using the atmosphere itself.
I'm sorry. You kind of lost me.
Yeah,
Could
I
you repeat that
try
question
one more
again?
time.
Like if you use the atmosphere itself, is what I'm saying. Would that count as showing it without a container?
No, because that's the
No.
thing in question, bro.
So how
No.
how are you supposed to design an experiment without a container if you can't have it open to the atmosphere?
I just
I'm not
told
the
you,
one.
make a vacuum chamber.
Yeah, but
This
like
is
we're
why
not the ones
logic
that
is
are
important,
claiming.
man.
Yeah, we're not the ones that are claiming that we have a pressurized system next to the vacuum of space without a container. Like that's your guys' position.
We don't claim that it's pressurized and then just space.
That's literally
we don't
what you
even
say. You
we
say
don't even claim that space is a perfect vacuum.
Doesn't
Okay, it's
matter.
not a
It's still
perfect
less
vacuum.
than what's below it.
Yeah, there still has to be containment then because there's a pressure gradient. All right, there has to be containment. There's still a pressure gradient. Every example of a pressure gradient, once you release the top of any tank of gas, guess what? It equalizes. So the fact that there's no equalization and we're just happen to, have this nice stable environment without a container is pretty wild to me.
So
I
why
don't know.
does
It's just sounding to me like you won't allow any experiment because we can't
Show
use
one.
the
Show
open
one.
atmosphere.
The
But
premise for
then
your model doesn't exist. The premise doesn't exist. You understand that anytime you have you involve pressure, you need some sort of containment. Every like every tire, every balloon, any case with different types of pressure, you have a container and then you have a gradient within inside of that container. We appear to have pressure. We appear to have gradient. You must therefore, assume a container. Otherwise, and unless shown otherwise, right? This is the logical, syllogism. In every case, there is a container being used to control pressure. If we have pressure and we have a gradient, you must disprove that there is a container. It's not the other way around.
Just like Jeremy was saying, our claim is all swans are white. All swans are white is equal to all pressure gradients must have containment. Show one example where that's not the case and not use the thing that's in question, which is the Atmos. And that's it.
So if the pressure equalizes as soon as we take the cap off a bottle,
bro,
then I'm almost done. Then what prevents the 14.7 psi from equalizing with the 99.5% vacuum at 114,000 feet or whatever?
What?
What keeps the 14.7 psi at sea level from equalizing with the 0.07 psi at 113,900 feet?
I still don't really understand your question.
That's the gradient. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
gradient.
that's just the gradient.
What keeps that from equalizing, though?
That's a good question, Jesse. Maybe it's something like containment? It's a container somehow. We're contained somehow. We meaning the Atmos, our environment. It's being contained. You guys have the burden of proof to show that it's not being contained.
Yeah,
no, but
why don't we ask them?
within that container, what causes that gradient?
At different elevations?
Right, like if
heavier gas going to the lowest point, just like any other system.
Because of its weight?
And temperature.
Yes.
And temperature.
Because of its weight.
Okay, so weight can form a gradient, right? Why does weight per mass or per volume need a top on the container in order to form a gradient?
How do you weigh literally any gas without it being contained? How can you weigh that to actually know the weight of something?
Did you see my video where I weighed an empty pot and then I weighed the same pot with full of air that was not trapped in there? It was free to come and go.
You mentioned that.
Well, did
but
you
that's
see the
back
video?
to the atmosphere. No, I didn't see it. You made the point. We talked about it. It still has, it's exposed atmosphere. Okay.
Well, let me ask you this, Biasticles. Is your claim that a gradient requires containment, is that claim falsifiable? Or is it unfalsifiable because you assume there is a dome and thus we are inside a container and there is no way to get outside the container to test the claim, so your claim is unfalsifiable?
It's not unfalsifiable because every single example of showing a pressure gradient here on Earth needs containment. The only thing that doesn't need containment in your paradigm is the Earth itself, is the Atmos itself. But that's the thing that's in question.
It's the rule, not the exception. You're trying to prove an exception, and there is no evidence for it.
Right.
But then you're also not letting us use other gases instead of the gases in the atmosphere?
No, okay, here's one
there's
example that
winning.
you could do. If you could perhaps build a gravity ball in a lab and then show gas pressure surrounding this gravity ball.
You
Yeah, we
can't
need a
build a
gravity ball.
gravity ball.
There you go. Well, perhaps you can attempt to maybe
Buy
figure
a
out.
container of gravity from Thermo Fisher.
eBay's all out. But I'm serious. Where would I have to go to do a test that would have the potential to falsify the claim that a gradient needs a container? Is that possible on Earth, or is that impossible?
Well, first you'd have to change the definition
of gas
right? Pressure. Yeah, you first you'd have to change, the definition of the word. So
That's
but
happened a lot.
We're trying to highlight that this is the case. And you guys have basically assumed a false premise, and now you're trying to work backwards. Like, well, how do we fix this? Well, you just have to acknowledge that you were incorrect from the beginning.
But my question stands. Where would I have to go to get outside of the assumed dome in order to test whether pressure gradient requires a container? Is there any place, this is a yes or no question, is there any place I could go to have a chance at falsifying this if it was false?
You should have thought about that before you became a Glober.
No answer?
Wait, Jesse, but is the thing you're saying that like the only way you can test it is inside the container, so you're already inside it? Is that kind of partly what it's like? You're already inside it, so how could you test it if you're already in it?
Well, I think that's what he's saying. I don't think there's a dome, but I think his claim is unfalsifiable in his mind because there's in his mind there's a dome, and since it's
is it a dome?
go outside the dome,
no one said a dome.
Is it a dome? Is it a military hangar of somewhere? I don't know what it is. Don't know what it is. All we know is that by definition and by every example in existence, pressure, containment, they go together. So
okay, I can work with that. If weight can be a containment, just like magnetism can be a containment.
we're talking about no. We're talking about reactive gases, sir. Reactive gases.
If I can take a magnet and stick a whole bunch of little steel BBs to it, I contain the BBs with the magnet. If the weight of air is a valid form of containment, then yes, we have a container that is also forming the gradient.
Wait, we're talking about pressurized gradient. I notice you're just saying gradient rather, like you're excluding the word pressurized.
Oh, yes, we're all talking about a pressure gradient in air. That's been the whole topic for an hour.
Yeah, I mean it's very simple, and you've had this conversation for years. I've been having this conversation for about a year and a half, and it still holds, which is why I'm still in the position I hold, which is that the globe is a shit model.
Well, so far it accurately predicted everything that Flat Earther Dwayne Kellum showed in his high altitude balloons going up to 113,900 and some odd feet, approaching a vacuum, 99.5% of the vacuum of space, with no indication that it was stopping. So the globe model predicts that the pressure would just reduce and reduce and reduce to about 10 or so hydrogen atoms per cubic centimeter. So do you have any measurements to the contrary of the globe's prediction on the air pressure versus altitude?
The globe's prediction. Wasn't he a flat earther?
It's not a globe's prediction.
That's correct. Oh,
just because they've created a model based on, and they've just integrated what the gradient is into their model doesn't mean that that's a globe prediction.
Real quick, Gio.
Even anything ultimately linked to it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Tora wanted me to remind everybody with the conversation how it started. Miggy's 3 points, yo. Shout out to Miggy. Still one of the best. So we went over curvature pretty quickly, I might add. There's been no measurement of curvature, no measurement of rotation or motion, and there's no example that any glober can point to show a pressurized gradient without it being contained here on Earth.
You forgot to mute everybody before you said that.
And there's no horizontal increase or decrease in elevation or a pressure gradient. So if Jesse can show us a horizontal change going that way past the horizon or to the horizon, at the same amount or rate that it goes vertical, you show it horizontal, then we'll take a peek and we could be on a globe maybe. I'm willing to look at that.
Yeah, no, I agree to Mog. And I think Nico was trying to get in, but your mic is kind of bad. But go ahead and try it.
Yeah. Attends. Okay, I will speak loud. If there is no pressure, as the pressure going to zero in altitude, there is no pressure. There is zero. So there is no need of any container because the container will have to contain a pressure. A pressure will have to be applied on it to contain anything. So you don't need any wall if you have zero pressure around it. Is what the globe said. You don't need any container to contain zero pressure.
Yeah, but it's not zero pressure because you're forgetting the fact that as you go lower in altitude near the ground, you have an increased pressure gradient density. It's
Yes.
14.7 near the surface. Okay, and then you
Yes.
also have continuous forces like the nitrogen cycle, the water cycle, etc. All these dynamic forces, these reactive materials, as Riggs has said, and these reactive gases, all playing with each other in this dynamic environment that's contained, yet we're supposed to believe that we're next to this, we're just flying through space, this giant water ball, we're just flying through space in a vacuum, in the vacuum of space, and then somehow magically it's just contained that way. And if your example is, well, that's because of gravity. Okay, you have to show that gravity can hold gas to a ball next to a vacuum on a smaller scale, and then I swear I will look at it.
Likewise.
So pressure in absolute can't be negative. Vacuum is just a relative pressure differential that you will have between two systems. And after, air has weight, air is matter. So it follows the Cavendish experiment with gravity. Mass attract mass. You have the air will be attracted to the earth like mass. And as you go further, as you go lower, as you said, you will have more weight with over will pushing down, increasing the pressure going down. It explains. But my question was not going down, was going up. What is the need of a wall if there is no pressure to contain as you go up? What container is needed to contain zero pressure?
I'm not gonna lie, Nico. It's really hard to understand you, bro. I'm trying to follow.
What is the need of a wall if there is no pressure to apply on it?
Well, that's in comparison to what though?
You can hear him, Riggs. Okay, you go.
I mean, I talked to Nico on the other server. I have a lot of trouble with Nico. Sorry. He's a great guy. I just can't understand anything.
Can't understand. I'm sorry, bro.
The French accent.
I don't want to cock block you, Nico, about this topic. I know that you've been wanting to talk to people about it. I just, you say that. Why do you need to contain zero pressure? Well, the point is that, unfortunately, for that argument, we're talking about the Earth, and there is pressure on Earth, and you haven't shown anywhere that there is zero pressure. So, regardless, you would still need containment.
No, as Jess have been speaking, as you go higher and higher, you go to zero pressure. Science didn't say there is a vacuum.
There's no place that you can go with zero pressure.
It will be all time one molecule in a volume of space. You just make it bigger, you will have one molecule. And what is pressure is the presence of a molecule in a volume.
Let me remind you of something, Nico. I'll finish up here, man. I'll let you get in with everyone else. But when you take those helium balloons up, it expands greatly, right? So when you're saying this one molecule or whatever, yeah, you might say one molecule, But the initial response from gas in low pressure is to expand greatly. So with all this expansion in the higher altitude, even though you think it's very low pressure, which is not zero, mind you, it's not zero, you're going to need something to contain all of that expansion. And until you can show that there's no container, there is a container, because that's how it works anywhere else on Earth.
That's right, and it has to be a powerful container. Otherwise,
It has to be a very powerful container. Exactly.
That's affirming the consequence.
No.
I'm sorry, you can't maintain that it exists without when there's no evidence that that it does. Like when you haven't been there to say you can't just say you can't make the negative claim. Of course, you can make the negative claim. You can always make the negative claim. The burden of proof is on the positive claim. If you guys are saying that physical containment is necessary for the gas pressure that we have here, because what we have in terra firma, we have examples of like things being physically contained. You're trying to apply it to a place that we've never been to like the heavens or what have you. That's affirming the consequent. It could be that the gas pressure is contained by another means. We don't know, right?
Right.
Oh, we
It's
actually
affirming the
talked about
consequent.
that before. That's not affirming the consequent. That's just abductive.
Well, and let me just finish. The other thing is every example of containment that we have here, on from one end of the container to the other, that we don't have like 99.5% or like almost 0% of the pressure that in the gradient. It doesn't go to almost zero in every example that we have, whether it be a propane tank or a tire or whatever it is, right? The gradient is has a much narrower range. So to say that this is like an example with with us going 130,000 or however much feet it was, and it was a flat earth that did it and stuff like that, so we trust the data, and it's almost 0%. That's unheard of in terms of our physical containment on terra firma.
Yeah, because hydrogen is way above the surface level. It's near the very top. It's above helium.
Okay, so do you know what abductive reasoning is, percentage?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you define it for me? Can you just like lay it out?
It's like when you you have a lot of data points and you come with a more like a general kind of truth.
Well, you go for the most probable answer based on the set of data that you have.
Yeah.
All right, so how is that affirming the consequent and not abductive reasoning if what they're saying is, based on what we know how pressure works, then this should be the case. That's not saying because we know how it works and because we know it does this, then it would have to work like this. They're saying no, based on what we know, it should work like this. Obviously, no one's claiming to be up to like the edge of whatever container there would be.
And that's the thing. They're saying it does work like this. That there is a physical container. They're not.
I'm happy to accept that it's not the case. I'm open to evidence. I'm happy to accept the evidence.
How could he be saying that it's definitely the case if he's also saying that he's open to the idea that it's not the case? So he's obviously not saying that.
Riggs right now is saying it right, yeah. But like generally speaking, when flat earthers use this as an argument, they make it like they say that physical containment is the necessary antecedent. They say it must be the case that there's a physical container up there. And that's not an inference. That's not an inference based off of adductive reasoning. Okay, that's a truth claim.
I can actually show it to you with a super simple example. If you and I are about to watch a sports ball game, right? And I say, your sports ball team has a bunch of injured players. My sports ball team is going to win. Am I making a positive claim or am I speculating with abductive reasoning?
You're actually making a positive claim there. It's going to win. They're going to win.
Okay, so how could I read the future? Or I'm speculating via abductive reasoning. Or you're thinking that I have some special way to read the future, right? So like if you're being good faith, you would say that that's abductive reasoning. It's speculation given like the most probable thing. But even if I say my sports ball team is going to crush yours, no reasonable human being is like, oh, you're dividing. You can't read the future. That's affirming the consequent. No, they'd say like you're speculating. You don't know any better. And yeah, they are speculating, but they're doing it based on what they think is the most plausible case. It's completely logical, and it's not the opposite of logical, which is an error in logic, which would be affirming the consequent. It's completely logical.
I agree with you, but you made an error in logic right there because you made a false analogy. So with your example of watching a sports game, this is something that happens in the future. So of course the context denotes that it's going to be speculative. But with
right,
what
okay, so it's
what the world is right now. Hold up. hold up, man. But with what the world is right now and physical containment of pressure right now, they're not making a claim as to what's going to happen in the future. The context of this, when they say it's a necessary antecedent, they're saying that if so, like that it must be the case now. You understand?
It's analogous because it's an incomplete set of information. It's not analogous because, like, in the future they're saying they will see it. It's analogous because neither do I, with the sports ball, have a complete set of information of how it's going to pan out. Neither do they with the people who are claiming there is no container or there is a container. It's analogous.
Yeah, but
you're just restating that it's affirming the consequent. This is not a false analogy. It's not a false dilemma. It's super simple.
Is it a
Listen,
mental
it is a false
container
analogy
or
because one is contextual, right? One, because of the future context, it necessitates that it is a speculative, like it is a inference. The other one, the context doesn't give it that credence. You understand? The other one, the context, it doesn't, like you can't say, okay, this is necessarily speculative because it's happening in the future. No, it's a claim that they're making in the present. So you like
it's
the way
analogous
that they
because they're
word
both
it is
incomplete
important.
data set. That's it. It's analogous because they're both incomplete data set speculation based on most reasonable, like personal, like they have the most reasonable, plausible situation. It's analogous.
It's
Otherwise,
when they
you're
say
just saying it.
bro. When they say the physical containment isn't a necessary antecedent, that's not an inference. There's no inference
Well,
there.
it's
They're saying
because it's a
not,
conclusion
necessary.
based on the review of evidence. It's like you can only ask for it so long before it's like, oh, this is just the case.
Year and a half for me.
Can I get something in real quick for Nico? He says, no wall is needed to contain anything if you have nothing next to it. A container contains pressure. If pressure is 0, nothing has to be contained.
where's pressure 0 at, Nico?
Yeah, where's that at?
That's kind of a non sequitur.
Saying there's a 0 pressure means that you can identify a space or area that literally has nothing in it, which doesn't exist.
Measuring lack of pressure.
Well, supposedly the atmosphere extends past the moon. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Even so, it would be contained.
Excuses extend beyond that. But
I'm just saying, even in that, even if you
hold
want
on,
to say that it's contained, but go ahead.
evidence is what we need to not extend beyond the moon. We need it to be right here in front of our lap. We need the evidence. We need a little bit of air. Release the air and watch it stay right there. It's that simple.
Furthermore, instruments themselves wouldn't be able to read 0. They fail at like the smallest amount. So you'd be limited by the instrumentation also, if the medium even existed.
Yeah, so, other Jesse claiming that, we have a globe, you guys have nothing. Oh, I think we just destroyed it with 3 questions.
Yeah.
Horizontally, 3959 would prove that. And if you went in a horizontal line for 3959, then the air should be 0, right, Jesse? Or whoever the other guy was, the other Chinko or whatever his name was. I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Nico.
Nico's
a really great dude. I just could never hear what he's saying. I feel bad because I'd love to talk to him, but
yeah, definitely seems like a nice guy. But it looks like another attempt at changing definitions, right? From where level and flat now have an alternate definition. Containment has an alternative definition. It's literally an attack on reality.
Let's look up the definition for gas pressure.
Uh-oh.
Let's do this. Gas pressure is the force exerted by gas particles colliding with the walls of their container.
Walls.
Look up atmospheric pressure.
Look up. There is no atmosphere. That doesn't make any sense. You definitely can't demonstrate no sphere of air. Can you
if we're talking
demonstrate
about
some air spheres? Yeah,
if we're talking about
a sphere of air.
atmospheric pressure, that's what we ought to look up the definition for.
No, definitions aren't going to help you demonstrate a sphere of air, left lane.
I have a
Atmosphere has the word. Hold on, brother. We're talking about definitions and words, and you said atmosphere. So let's I think we should totally 100% stick right here with left lane on the sphere part. Where do you see spheres of gas?
It's actually a good question, but you can go
Great
next,
question.
Concave.
I posted that picture. This is supposed to be like the pressure gradient chart. This goes up to 50 kilometers, but I mean even higher than that, it gets worse and worse. The idea is if there is some sort of a container, I'm assuming physical, right? I mean like physical container, because gas pressure requires containment. This is I'm thinking at it, how do I get this out? This is the curve for the pressure. Okay, can we simulate that in a container down here in a lab in a bucket? I'm thinking we can't. I'm thinking if we get a container, choose your container, glass container, metal container, tank container. How can we replicate that in a container? Not just any gradient, not just, oh, it's a little higher up top and a little lower up top. No, I'm talking about anything resembling that, where the top portion of the tank is virtually pressureless. Virtually.
Yeah, great question. Looks like we can't.
thank you.
So let's not make basis claims like we don't have a container.
Wait, can I base my whole worldview on it too?
You know what? Go for it, because I think the
Can I
whole
go all in?
scientific paradigm forced people to go and accept that for some reason. And then once you critically look at it and you're like, huh, that kind of doesn't make sense, because every time I have gas pressure and a gas pressure gradient, I have to contain it.
It was mid-sip.
And account for it specifically.
Gio, can I make that my worldview? I guess you can, Gio.
It was mid-sip.
Galatrax has coffee all over his keyboard.
I have tea all over my shirt now. It's mid-sip.
Hey, is that coffee cup containing your tea, bro?
Well, it's just funny because the way you were breaking it down, you're like, you're basically asserting it, and it's like, how about also basing your whole worldview on it and getting the whole world to believe it as well?
Okay, to be fair, the whole coffee cup thing isn't. It actually supports their narrative.
I was just kidding, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, but like, it's just the reason it's faulty though is that like if you wait over time, that stuff will dry up and whatnot. But the whole the best argument is the different layers of gradient and that they're at rest. Because if you have all these different convection currents and you have an open system out into space, and you have all these reactive gases, like all those things combined, you would get much more swirling between all the different layers. And then obviously you would have off-gassing that would just be siphoned off the Earth, probably rapidly. But I mean,
well,
yeah.
Just to show you that we're not in a vacuum. Right? Because if there is no containment in their worldview, that means we're in the vacuum, which means we should be boiling.
That is incorrect. That's not how we say it.
Okay. I'm just making a logical inference, but go ahead. How is that incorrect?
Yeah,
Because air has weight. And the higher the air column, the more pressure. And so that pressure keeps us from boiling. So let me ask you this.
But that's wait. Let me address what you just said. That had nothing to do with us being in the vacuum. Because if there's nothing separating Earth from the vacuum of space, like you guys say, it's just gradually going off until it's just a near perfect vacuum, then how come we are not boiling? Oh, is it because we're not in the vacuum of space? We're not in a vacuum. It's being contained.
We're in the lower part of the pressure gradient, where the pressure is strong enough for us to survive.
That's what you keep hoping for and you dream about all day, but it's not real because you can't demonstrate any of that. You can't go down in a cave where it's opened on top and play around in your gas atmosphere down in the cave. Stop just inferring you can do that.
Well, Jesse, if like all of outer space, like being like a vacuum, as it were, I mean, in a general sense, like having that, like if you were inside of a vacuum, like a massive vacuum chamber, Could you make a non-vacuumed pocket? How about a ball? How about a ball with no physical barrier? Could you make the little people on that ball not be in a vacuum, even though you're inside a huge vacuum chamber? Because essentially, that's kind of the analogy. Like outer space is a massive, massive vacuum, and then there's this ball, this kind of unexposed ball, where it's not a vacuum on the ball, but the whole thing is in a massive vacuum chamber.
Great question.
Well, if the ball had the mass equal to the Earth's mass, it would then have the same pull on air molecules, and they would be attracted to it. They would bunch toward it because of their weight, and they would form a pressure at the surface of that ball, right?
No, not unless you could demonstrate that. You got a little bit of lead.
Wait. Can a vacuum overcome the weight of something? For example, I use a vacuum to suction cup my table. Could I lift it up with just the power of that vacuum?
Well, it depends on the weight of the table. For example, if you look into
Well, it's definitely heavier than gas, bro.
If you
They can lift crazy stuff with suction. Have you seen some of those lifts they have? It's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, and just pure little, tiny little gas molecules, right? They should be getting sucked up like it was nothing.
Since I was asked a question, if I may respond, that would be splendid. If you look into hydraulics, you will find that you can only suck water up about 34 feet, no matter how good your vacuum is. So there is a limit.
Well, that's the same with capillary action. The same limit.
Yeah, the water will begin cavitating at that 1 atmospheric pressure layer. But what was it? What were you linking that to, though?
I have no
idea.
idea.
What does that prove, though?
Let me explain. Thank you. Let's say you did suck water up 34 feet. You would have absolute 0 psi at the top, but water has a weight of about 1 psi for every 2 feet. So at the bottom of that column, you will have about 15 psi, about 14.7 psi of water pressure at the bottom of that column, and the water pressure in that column will reduce linearly all the way to 0 psi at the top where the vacuum is. So isn't that showing a vacuum near a 15 psi pressure over a gradient?
Well, are you trying to say that the top of Earth is like the top of water is exposed to a vacuum? Like the vacuum of outer space? I mean, you're basically saying that the ocean is evidence of your claim. We're talking about gases. So
I'm talking about fluids, both water.
Well, we're
and
talking
air
about
are
gases,
fluids
not
here.
fluids.
Apples and oranges, please.
So let me ask a simple question, Beasticles. If a molecule of air has weight, would it not want to stay near Earth? That's a simple question. If an air molecule has weight, would it want to stay near Earth?
I don't even understand the question, bro.
Well,
it's not really a coherent question. If
a
the
golf-
air wants to stay near Earth, like it's sentient, what are you talking about?
No. Would it be attracted to Earth like a golf ball is attracted to Earth? If a molecule of air had weight, would it be experiencing a force towards Earth?
No.
I don't Yeah, it's like a weird question.
Well,
Just no, Jesse. No is the answer.
If something has weight, it's attracted to Earth, right?
No, not in a vacuum. Wrong, Jesse. Wrong.
Well, then how come when I put a vacuum in a jar, the feather in there still is attracted to the bottom of the jar?
It's not air.
What are you talking about? We're talking about air. How much colored air stays in the jar when you hook your vacuum up to it, Jesse? We'll all take a look. If you can stick your jar down in a hole and let gravity help you, I much oblige you.
So nobody here thinks that something by the mere fact of having weight would be attracted to Earth.
What is weight? Define weight.
Weight is that attribute that causes it to be attracted to Earth.
What is that attribute? Define. Hold on, wait. Because you're dancing around the question. What is weight, and what is this attribute you're talking about? What is the attribute of weight?
It's when you hold it out and you let it go, and it free falls.
Okay, what's
has
the
a
cause of weight?
We don't agree on that, but that's also
You're not
irrelevant.
answering the question. Why aren't you answering the question? What is the cause of weight?
Should we talk about should we change the topic to what is the cause of weight?
Because you keep saying the weight of the air is sufficient enough to cause the pressure gradient. Now we need to define what the weight is in order to continue this conversation so we don't go in circles. So what is the weight?
Well, no, we don't, because the fact that it has weight, and we both agree that it has weight, and the weight has certain inevitable effects, means
I
we
don't
don't
agree
have
that
to
it has
agree.
weight because I can't agree with the definition of what weight is until you define it. Can we define what weight is, please?
Oh,
Correct.
You put it on a scale and it reads a number. It reads a value proportional
But
to
the
the
word
amount that
weight?
you put on the scale.
Well, a scale? What are you talking about?
Did you
How
see
you
my
weigh in the
video?
air?
Did you
Yeah,
see
how are
my
you weighing the air, bro?
did you watch my video? Just like yes or no?
Yes, I watched your video. I skimmed through it.
Okay, did you see how I pumped all the air out of the pot? I got the empty weight of the pot. I teared the scale, and then I let the air back in, and I was weighing the weight of the air within that pot. Did you see that?
No, you weren't. No, you weren't.
Did that air create an increased reading on the scale when let back into the pot? Yes or
That's
no?
not what you were doing. Sorry. You're
But
supposed to weigh the air with gravity, pulling it down. You don't need a pot. You need gravity and a hole. So gravity in a hole should help you weigh your heavy air, right? Your real heavy air that you weigh.
Well, did you see that the air had weight when it entered my
No,
pot?
no, the air doesn't stay in your pot when you
Don't
put
white
the
knight, bro.
vacuum
I'm
in there,
asking the
or oh, I wasn't finished at all. The air doesn't stay in the pot when I remove the lid, Jesse. I'm sorry. No weight.
like I saw your video, but again, you're avoiding the question I asked because you keep saying the weight of the air is sufficient enough to explain the pressure gradient. So now we need to define what weight is, and you've been avoiding the question 4 times now. Can you please define what weight is? What is the definition of weight to you?
I just said the downward force created by the whatever in question. That's why
The what?
that's why the weight of the pot increased when I let air into it, because I was weighing the added weight of the air.
Did anyone else get that definition, or am I crazy? Did he
He said
define what weight
downward
is?
force.
Downward
no
force.
definition. The definition he initially
Yeah.
said was, you can measure weight on a scale. That's not a definition. That
He
in
said
effect
weight is
really
the downward force produced by whatever is in question that you're measuring.
My scale happens to measure force.
Right.
Do you agree with that
like
definition, Jesse?
like a scale measures, at least in America, it measures pound force. So if I put a 50-pound weight on the scale, it's reading that the weight is producing 50 pounds of force onto that scale. So the weight of the object is 50 pounds because that's the downward force of the object in question.
At 1G.
Well, no, it's just the weight. That is the weight is that force. It doesn't matter what your upward or downward acceleration is. The weight of a given mass changes, but a spring scale always measures weight.
Basically, do you think that's an adequate definition? The weight is the downward force.
Can we define what the downward force is?
It's that
what the
force in the
scale
downward
measures.
direction.
Okay. So the downward force, therefore causing weight, therefore causing the pressure gradient. Okay. How is this causing the pressure gradient when all other examples need containment?
It's not. It's not.
Need containment. Like we're going back to the same question, man. Like, I don't think it's sufficient. I still don't think it's sufficient. I kind of tapped out anyway. If anyone wants to take over, I'm tapped out.
I'll take over.
Exhausted.
Hey, Rufy.
Hey, Jesse.
Yeah. It's a win for the container.
So